Hello. Oof. Man, I'll tell you some stuff in a minute. Hold up. Still getting set up here for a sec. Sniggle! Thank you! 19. Jeez. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Damn, son! Make your wish. You got clover magic on the back. How's everybody doing? I'm a little frazzled at the moment. Apologies. Give me a sec to keep getting in the right spot here. Can you guys hear me okay? How's music / vocals? Are we good? Give me some feedback. And yes, today is glasses day because I'm tired and that's as good as I got right now. Fitness studio at the moment. Ooh, that can be tough. I'm finally at one that suits my needs really well and is cheap too, so I'm happy about that. Granted, even if I told you, it probably wouldn't help because you're in Germany. Serenity, you are in Germany. What? Not right now. Don't start barking. Please wait till Papa gets home. Don't you start. Okay. I'm gonna mute it until I can figure out how to stop her barking. Give me a sec. Okay, so I bought her one of these chickens. The ones that are supposed to scream a lot. This one doesn't exactly scream for a long time. Yes, here, you can have it. But for some reason, like, she just chews on the feet. All her other toys, she chews on the belly, right? Not so much with this one. So, I'm hoping at some point she'll chew on the belly. You guys will probably hear it if she does. So there's that. Oh, really, Serenity? Gosh, I hope you can find more. Yeah, sorry about the barking. So hopefully she gets a bit better with that. Okay, so I had a couple things I wanted to do today. How many of you are here to listen about Journey June stuff? It's so hard to actually like get people to come over from another thing. So if anybody's actually here from that, I'm gonna be surprised. But getting Journey June rolling and getting the word out is really difficult. I know you are, Sniggle. You're here for the goodness. Did you answer Gabe's Discord message? Speaking of Discord, you overpaid for the hotel, homie. Like, by a lot. But see, I think that was Gabe's fault. I think he said $140 a night. And I remember him saying that too, where I think he screwed up. He meant $140 total. So, yeah. Oh, Serenity. I'm so glad. Alright, I'm gonna put out a message to everybody on Discord, so give me a sec. Sucks because it was like not even hot earlier, and now it's just kind of muggy. I don't know. I know it's a cheap ass hotel. I don't get it. So that means what? It was $140 a night. How many nights were we there? 3? That was like $50 times 3. So that, well, okay. So it's $140 a night total. But then you have to take into account there are 3 of us, so then you divide that by 3 and it's like $50 a night, but then you times it by 3, so then it's $140 total. So that's where it's confusing. I just figured this out. Okay. So he wasn't wrong, because it is $140 a night, but it's divided by 3 and then times by 3 for you, so it's 140 total. Anyway, he's getting his hair cut right now. So, and apparently he's in the chat. Text, please. I don't know. I'm good, Gabe. I'm okay. Can I get some chips? Dude, I will always accept chips. Okay, I was going to work on Mermay really quick. Is that okay with everybody? Can we work on Mermay super quick? Just because I gotta get today's done. And then we'll get to Journey June stuff. Because I don't even know if Journey June people are here. If anybody is here from Journey June, please speak up. Because I need to know. Hey, Fire Seal. Yeah, just drop in, no problem. How you doing, man? Man. Okay, usually I like to go girl, boy, on all these mer people, but the last 2 that I've got sketched out are boys. This one's pretty bad, and I still don't know how to make this one look not evil, but he's plugging the dolphin's blowhole. I know that's bad, but it's like if you plug someone's nose when they're sleeping and they're like, right? But this just looks bad. But it's one I want to do, and this guy's getting taken around by Nautilus, so I think I'll do this one. No, that one actually tomorrow. Yeah, I'm switching these around. Because, remember, weekends don't do very well. So if you're going to post anything you're not so happy with, maybe do it on a weekend. Because that's going to be a better time for that crap. It's the mergers. Murder. You know. Okay, so Chibi, you're here for it. Ebony, you're here for it. Okay, good to know. Thank you for letting me know that. Well, we're gonna talk really quick about some things then. I had someone on Gabe's stream ask about, they were planning on doing, like, basing their hero off themselves, and I highly suggest you do not. Don't base your hero on anyone. Remember that this is a test. Journey June is a test for you to just feel how a story feels from start to finish, for you to almost have a throwaway character. And I say that in case you're just starting off, make sure they're not necessarily like someone you're in love with. Just have it be a crash test dummy almost. You know, so you can kind of throw them into whatever situation that kind of comes up for it, because you need to be prepared to do that with any character you create. And the reason I say not to base it off you, yourself, or anyone else, you need to get used to making lots of characters, and they all can't be based off you, so it's better that you get used to making characters now, instead of just going off the one that's you. You get one shot at making a character that's you, basically. So I wouldn't do that. Don't do that, because that's going to stop you from making a lot of decisions too, because they're way too established. The whole point is to not have a character that's established, right? Because you will establish the character throughout their journey. So make sure they are a clean slate. And I mean clean. I've even had people ask me if they could use like fan art characters. I'm like, no! Holy crap, on so many levels, no. Can't do anything with that story because you don't have rights to that character. You're going to be influenced too much by their story from what you know of them, and you're going to be influenced by your nostalgia for that character. Like, no. So you want something that you basically made, I say, in the 2 weeks before June hits. I usually think that's a good time because you're not so tied to them. They're still, developing. You're still excited for them, so it's not years ago. Because, yeah, I highly suggest you don't use characters from years ago either, because you have those ties to them. You've been trying to make a story for them for years, probably. There's just too much. It's like trying to make an ex-boyfriend relationship or girlfriend work again. Just don't do it. Not for this. This is just a test. If this works out really well and you figure out how to make a story, thanks to, the month, Awesome. Go apply it to these characters later. Don't do it for this. Do not do it for this. Does that make sense? If anybody has any questions on that, let me know. It's just way easier to start with a blank canvas than to try to take a painting that exists and make it work. You know what I mean? Hi, Spongy. How you doing? So right off the bat, actually, if any of you do have Journey June questions, that might be a good way to start while I ink this, I guess. Because then I can answer them pretty easily as I go. I am planning on doing like hero creation on the stream here, but first I want to get this done for today. And if I can do that on stream, I will. It shouldn't take me more than like 15-20 minutes. And then we'll get into the nitty-gritty, so to speak. But yeah, if anybody has any so far, let me know. Dang, hi. So Sniggle, I'll PayPal you back how much we need to give you. 'Cause you just silly. Wrong. How was everybody's Thursday? If you don't have a Journey June question, at least answer me how your Thursday's been. Sorry, Friday. It's Friday now. Switch days. Happy Friday. For those that get Memorial Day and the weekend off, do you get Friday off and Monday? Or do you just get Monday off? How does that work? I don't even remember anymore. Some people have Friday and Monday off. Some people just have Monday off. Sniggle. Yeah, that's great. Then you know, it's a bonus, right? Just Monday? Hey, that's still something, right? I mean, something's better than nothing, as I like to say. Did you already eat off the foot? Careful with that. I'm trying to half watch her so she doesn't swallow one of these feet from this chicken. You don't get any days off, Sniggle? What? Is it because you're third shift or whatever? That's kind of crap. Do you guys actually miss a lot of like holiday perks because you're technically the next day? Or like, how does that work? Does somebody third shift on Sunday then get it off because they're technically early morning Monday? How does that work? Oh, Sniggle, I'm sorry. How important is the ability to speak for a Journey June character? That's a good one. I'm gonna dig a little more though. When you say speak for, what do you mean? Like, do you mean their voice in the story? Like learning how they would speak? Because honestly, right away, I wouldn't even be worried about their dialogue. I'd be more worried about body language, staging. You could put a little dialogue in, but I always like to go by the rule that a story that has no dialogue, that it's still clear what's going on, is that strong of a story already. And then if you add dialogue in, only do it at the parts where it absolutely needs it. You don't want to plan a story, in my opinion, with dialogue in it, because that's going to kind of almost derail what you could be doing or showing with body language. Like, you could, I mean, you can do it, but it's like putting in a scene just for dialogue usually makes something drag on. Whereas if you're thinking in terms of action and body language and such, that you're going to plan for that and everything's going to be very clear just based on that, and then adding in dialogue on top of that is going to make it above 100%, if that makes sense. Oh, Seal just looks forward to resting. You deserve it, buddy. You work hard. Oh yeah, Spongy. I suppose now you don't get any holidays off at all because you're freelance now. You know how it feels. What I hate about when I went freelance is then like weekends and holidays became my no going out times. So my going out times are now like Monday through Friday during the day because no one's ever anywhere. But like yesterday I went out and it was like 2 or 3 p.m. and everything was crowded like a Saturday. I'm like, what's going on? And I get home and I ask Gabe, I'm like, did something happen today? He's like, it's Memorial Day weekend. And I was like, oh my God. So it's like Thursday and Friday are basically going to be lit everywhere because of the holiday. And I was like, man, it's crazy. Oh yeah, Ebony, it's whatever you want it to be. Whatever genre, whatever type of character. I actually think that's pretty neat that you've got a character without a mouth because that's going to make you actually push yourself more to have them motioning and gesturing and body language and all that stuff. And that's going to be a little bit of a challenge, but if you're up for that, go for it. I'm also changing one of the rules this year. Last year, we were very, 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 probably overly adamant that people post their stuff online. And I still say if you have a fear of posting good or bad work, you really should get used to posting both because your art isn't up to you and some people are going to have, think your bad art is good and your good art is bad, all that sort of stuff. So really posting all of it is going to do you better. But I know this is kind of more of a learning tool and I'm trying to push it more as a learning experience than a regular monthly challenge, which it's been really hard to break Journey June out of that artist illustrator challenge thing that's been kind of already established. This is a planning challenge. It's a storytelling challenge. It is not an illustration challenge. So now we're kind of saying if you don't want to post it online, like the story, that's okay. However, it's more fun to see how many people are participating and how many stories actually, manifest because of this. But if you're not comfortable yet, you should become comfortable with it. But, okay, as long as if you want the class at the end of the month, you do have to still prove you did all the days and all the prompts. But if you want to do that by sending us like a link to a website that has them all, and not your Instagram with a hashtag, that's okay. It's up to you. But, we're trying to encourage that you get used to posting all your art. Because really, like I said, your art is just subjective to everyone, so you can't actually say what of your stuff is the best and what's the worst, because that's one of the things I learned first and foremost starting to go to cons is the pieces I was the most proud of sometimes wouldn't sell. And the pieces that I wasn't the most happy with would sell like hotcakes. It's the weirdest thing. So, like I said, your art sometimes is not your own, It's going to be up to the people that see them and experience it. So, alright. Oh, that's right, Spongy. I forgot you still work for me. My bad. They can be easier to convey with the mouth. Like, a lot of my chibis are just eyes in a mouth, and that's fine, but you can get away with, things that are just eyes. Like, I'm gonna tell you guys, my Journey June story is probably gonna be my Clover Pip. Now, I know some of you are gonna say, oh, it's already established. It's really not. All that I actually did for the story that comes with it is just explore the hero a little bit. I didn't really world build, I didn't do anything, so I went about as far as I want you guys to go, but if you look at it, it's just eyes, and I plan on just doing that, so really, you can get away with it. You can get away with a lot of stuff. You could get away with no eyes, no mouth, nothing, no face. As long as your body language is solid, which, like I said, that can be a whole thing, but it's going to be a lot of trial and error getting that kind of body language on par. But you can do it. You could absolutely do it. Don't you tear off that foot yet. Maybe I just want to have one earring. No, I did one earring already on one of them. Dang it. Hold on. That's still not as long. Good enough. Okay. Let's see. That sucks, Serenity. I'm sorry. Prequel short story for my main comic. This year I want to start fleshing out the main story. Ooh. Miss Chibi, see, that's where I'm holding true to the don't use established characters, don't try to use things you've already got. If I were you, I would do this completely separate from Journey June, so you're not actually encumbered by our template, because all the things you've set in motion now may not fit into this template, and if you want to do your story justice, if you've already made a prequel story, you know how that feels, so I don't know if I would even have this. I would do a whole nother story and then go back and do your main comic, because really, I don't want to say you can't do that, because you could. It's just going to be the same formula again, where your story at this point may need more than that. It may be more complex at this point. Where the hero's journey really is like the simplest form of storytelling. There are so many other templates. So I want you to do what's best for your story, which I'm worried that the best thing for it wouldn't be Journey June at this point, seeing as last year you made a prequel. This year, you see what I'm saying? Like, I would almost do another smaller one so you get used to more stories too. So the other thing with storytellers is, if you're a storyteller, you should have more than one story under your belt, okay? So, or else people are gonna think you're a one-hit wonder sort of thing, or you only do this one story, and some people only have one story that's huge that they can't even do, and they keep saying they're gonna do it, but they've never made a smaller story, so they have no idea how to even finish a story, period. And that's what Journey June is for. It's for, you know, getting in the swing of actually making a story start to finish. How does it feel for you to go through your journey as well as your hero? So maybe Chibi, maybe use Journey June to get back into storytelling if you haven't been for a year, and then right after that ends, maybe July, switch over, and since you're in the zone, go work on your main comic and see where you're at with that, revisit it, polish it, all that kind of stuff. Because really this is for that feeling, you know, and to start making more titles. So once I get Hazel made, which should start, I'm hoping like I have it out next year for sure. And then this story actually will probably tie in with Hazel a little bit, so I'll explain that another time. But anyway, comic storyboarding techniques, been learning to practice them. There you go, Spongy. Sure, go for it. If you have any questions on panel work or what kind of panels to use and such, consult Gabe. But the first thing we can say about using actual comic panels when you haven't before is just stick with squares until you know why you need the other ones. Okay, vary the sizes of squares, like regular squares and then maybe two versions of the square, like 2 squares wide, so it's like a rectangle. Maybe just stick to squares and rectangles for your first round, and then the next time around, because people get all crazy and they're doing like trapezoids and triangles and stuff, and they don't know why, but there are reasons to use those, and actually they're very seldom used. So you're only supposed to use them in certain instances, and unless you know when to use those, you shouldn't. So if you're practicing comics at all, start basic, start cubes, start squares and rectangles. Hey, Emily. Thanks for your seal. Paired story, come together. You can try it, Spongy. I mean, I'm not going to tell anyone no if they're really passionate about it, but just make sure it's doable for you. So, like, okay, I'll kind of give away a part of this. A character from this story will be a character in Hazel most likely. So unless something goes off the rails, see, that's why I'm saying maybe. I'm not going to say it will or it won't, because halfway through maybe I'm like, nah, this isn't the same one, and then I'll just forget about it. That's what happens when you make characters and you take them, you know, through a journey. They can change, and they might not do what you originally kind of hoped they'd do. So because of that, you have to be very flexible. And for first-time storytellers, the whole flexibility thing, they're usually a little bit too adamant about how they want things. And if there's one thing I can tell you to get used to if you do want to be a storyteller, is you have to be okay with your characters telling you they need the story to be changed. And this is where I don't want you guys to use pre-existing things, because that's going to ruin whatever world or whatever you've got established already. Because you're going to start going down this road, and this character you've had since high school or whatever, you want them to go a certain way, and they're all of a sudden, no, Mom, I want to do this with my story. And you're like, no, you're not supposed to go. And, you know, the whole idea that you've had since then is ruined. Where if you figure out, you know, a story based on characters that you've just developed, that it's not as big of a deal. If you're like, oh yeah, so I made this guy, he's gonna do this thing, it's gonna be cool, we're gonna go down this road, not a big deal, whatever, if he dies, cool. Like, you have to be really chill about what happens to the character and not so tied down to it, not so worried about it, because like I said, this is you feeling what storytelling is when it takes over for you. And I can't even tell you how cool it is when you're doing a story and you've established it to a point where it starts telling you what it needs or wants. And I strive to do this challenge so people can feel that. Those of you who actually want that story in your life, I want you to feel that, because there is no feeling like it. And on the flip side, there may be some of you who, you know, aren't storytellers, and that's okay too. It's important to find out if it's something you want to do, or if it's something you've been wasting your time saying you want to do, or that you have all these stories and maybe you never liked telling stories in the first place. We had a couple people last year who, you know, started going through the motions, and they're like, you know what? I just like doing illustrations. I don't necessarily like, you know, doing panel work or pages or redrawing the same characters. I just want to do an illustration and be done with it. And that's fine too. At least you figured out what not to waste time on anymore. And, you know, if you ever want to freelance or do anything in your life like that, you're going to have to learn how to not waste time. And to not waste time means to figure out, you know, what you do want to do, what you don't want to do, what you can do. So it's really important, you know, that you go through these motions and figure it out. It's like trying anything. Like, you know, maybe you wanted to be a doctor and you went to medical school and you dropped out because you're like, hell no, I don't want to be a doctor. That's good. At least you dropped out, so you didn't waste more years of your life or anything like that. This is the exact same thing, albeit not, you know, so heavy. But it's important to find out what you don't want to do. Like, sometimes I get down on myself because I'm like, hey, I was in gaming for 10 years and I went to school for it, and suddenly I'm not doing it anymore. And some days I feel bad that, did I waste 10 years of my life? No, I didn't waste 10 years of my life. You know, you kind of end up justifying, you know, the things you wanted to do with the things you are doing. So if I wanted to, I could go back to it and all that stuff, but it doesn't suit my needs anymore. You know, and you have to, just like your character in your story, you have to be flexible with what you as your hero in your own story get to do. Otherwise, you're wasting your life, and you only have one life, you guys. I know I just got super heavy, but don't be wasting your life doing things either your parents wanted you to do that you don't want to do, or someone else is pressuring you to do. make sure you're doing the things you want to do, because otherwise you're wasting what little time you have. And I mean little time. We really don't have much time. It's funny because a year ago, and I know I'm rambling at this point, a year ago I was like, oh yeah, okay, by, spring next year, I'm going to have less commissions and I'll have more time to do my stories. Funny enough, I'm learning with freelance that if you're planning a year out, you're technically planning for 2 years out. Because the rollover on some things isn't the same as just saying a year. So anyway, hey D-Pad! We've been talking about Journey June. You guys, D-Pad was one of the ones last year out of, I think there were 37 people that finished Journey June last year, and like 3 of them who actually published their books, self-published their books. D-Pad is one of those. So yeah, I'm so proud of him. He did so well. His story is so cute, so good. Seriously, go check out his Instagram and stuff because it's so good. It's so good. Gotta look in there. Bye, Fire Seal. I mean, Spongy, when you say paired story, I am a little bit curious. Do you mean just like there's a couple carryover characters? Or do you mean it kind of ends up where the other one did? Or... Because, I mean, you could do it if it's not too established already. So I think otherwise you're going to have some trouble. And when I say trouble, you could figure it out. It's just going to take a lot more time than if you just had fresh characters. But, I know you, and I know you're willing to do the work. So if that's something you want, go for it. But you want to be a murderer and you stab someone, and suddenly you're faced with all these moral problems. You realize, yeah, except I think at that point if you murdered somebody or stabbed them, it might be a little late to change your life choices because you might be going to jail. So you probably won't end up a surgeon if you've got a, track record of stabbing people. Just saying. It's like, if you've killed a cat in the past, you're probably not going to end up a vet. Background checks. That's what they're for. But the analogy, Ebony, is pretty on. I get what you're trying to say. Okay, seeing as it is Memorial Day weekend or whatever, is it Memorial Day weekend or do you just say Memorial Weekend? It feels weird to say Memorial Day weekend. But anyway, I guess it is still that too. Is anybody doing anything fun? Anything like that? Don't forget, if you end up in a place where you've got a lot of people around you, go ahead and draw them. Life drawing at parties and stuff is kind of what they're for, in my opinion. We're going to them. Family visits, hey. Cemetery, cool. Gabe and I are good, Emily. Having less cons this year has done a ton for our mental states, I'd say. Like, Gabe just told me last night how absolutely happy he is that he's not doing them so much this year. And who knows, maybe next year we'll go a little bit more crazy and we'll do them again, but this year it's been nice to kind of take a year off, make more content. Like, in the month that we've kind of had as a break, I've made 2 pens, I've made a bunch more bookmarks and things like that. Oh, Jesus. Honey, no. No. Oh my god. Jesus. Alright, Jerry busted this up. Are you done? You killed the chicken. He's gone. We just got him like 4 hours ago and he's dead. Good work. Anyway, the problem with doing cons all the time, every year, like 1 or 2 a month for every month, is you just don't get a good run at anything. And as an artist, especially storyteller, we don't get much time to actually dig into any big projects. So I haven't been able to put out a new book, and it's been driving me crazy because I have at least 2 that are set up to go, but if it's not time, it's money. So if we're low on money, I can't print my books. And if I don't have any time, I can't put them together. But Gabe in the past week has made like 3 zines for his show next weekend. By the way, if anybody's in Chicago, there's a zine show next weekend called Cake. So that should be a good one. That usually has a lot of good like independent artists, storytellers, things like that. It's a good show. It's a very good show. But yeah, around Journey June, we get a little bit busy. And then I'm going to start ramping up on my commissions again. I have 50 due basically between August and September. So that kind of comes down to doing 2 to 4 a week. Well, 3 to 4 a week actually, not 2. I wish it was 2. But, you know, that means I don't have as much time again. So in the next 2 weeks, I'm doing all I can to get what I can done. So, also, remember what I said about coloring books, that like I could put in all these little dots, but since the style is so cute and simple, I want it to be able to have the ability for people to kind of put in their own textures and patterns and things like that. So like Nautilus usually have these kind of patterns on them that go like this, right? And I mean, I could put that in, but if a little kid is coloring this, I want them to do like a polka dot Nautilus or something. So if you're ever doing any sort of coloring book of any kind, make sure you're kind of, you know, leaving room for interpretation of whoever's buying it. And that can be a little bit of a power trip too. Like you have to let go of having control of all the things. So my first coloring book I did kind of had that problem. Like I had to let go a bit. But now it's more cool to see what people do. So anyway, and it's always a really good first project, I like to say. If anybody wants to start making products, if you're not quite to making, let's say, prints or anything like that, make a coloring book. Make it like 5 to 10 pages around a certain topic. There you go. Alright. It's the Nautilus, man. However, these are driving me nuts. I don't like what's going on here. Alright, I'm going to start with hero creation once I finish this, and we'll talk about it. It's a little bit better. I know, I'm terrified of big cities too. Gabe's going, I'm not. I'm okay if I can walk around, but... Me too, Emily. How's the baby? How's Eleanor? Hey, Mai! How you doing? How you been? Damn it. What do you got? You got your marrow? Good girl. She gets to go to puppy playtime tomorrow. She loves puppy playtime, but honestly, it's really sad because since she's a bulldog, she looks so different than the other dogs, and you'd think it wouldn't be a problem, but she actually gets left out a lot in playtime because all the other dogs, like the is that your mirror? What is it? Yeah. No, what is that? No. That's not good. No. Honey. Ugh. Here. I thought it was this. Take this. It's like the same thing but different. It smells, tastes like blood, right? Antler? Whatever. There you go. But she really does get left out. Like all the bigger dogs will be playing and then she'll try to come up and get in there and they're like, no. And they kind of just leave her alone. There's a video of her on her Instagram where she's trying to play with the other dogs and like she's fat so she can't keep up and she gets left out and she just comes back over to me and Gabe and kind of sits there sometimes. It's really sad, honestly. But I mean, at least her breed isn't very keen on dogs. Like pugs, bulldogs, and Frenchies are all the sort of breed that actually prefers humans to other dogs. So they don't like to actually go interact if they don't have to. You know, so I just think it's good that she gets a little bit of exposure to other dogs just so she doesn't freak out if she sees one in the street or something. But as far as playing goes, yeah, they don't really like it. And I really kind of feel for her because I understand, since I'm not so much hang out with people person. But oh, she's asleep. Seems like she sleeps a lot, Emily, so that's good. Ooh, safe travels on your way home, Mai. Alright, so I think this guy's ready. Ready enough. So, usually for Mermay or any other monthly challenge I'm doing, I'll typically do it the night before, if not a couple days early. Which, if you're ever doing a monthly challenge, it's really smart to get ahead of the game and to do it either a day or a couple days ahead, because you never know how busy a day will get. So just in case you don't want to miss it, you know, do it ahead of time, right? Just like you do anything, it helps teach you some life skills, you know. So my problem is, though, that I'm actually running out of ideas, and I've got one more day of a buffer before I'm out of ideas completely. And I've got some, but they're not really as solid as my other ones. So I don't know, I might actually cut Mermay early because I don't have exactly however many ideas I need. But I've still got, you know, enough to make that book. So sleep, poop, and eat is 80%. Oh, well, she's a baby, she's a cutie. That's okay, Spongy. Alright, so I am done with him. I'm going to email him to myself. And then... Sorry, she's making a lot of noise. Mushy, are you being frumpy? Why are you being a frumper? Come here! What are you doing? I think I might have to get her one of her chews. So is anybody thinking about Journey June, but something's holding you back, like you're worried about joining it? I'm trying to make it a little bit easier for people this year to join in. Just in terms of, you know, like a lot more lax, I guess. You can... What's wrong? Alright, here we go. I'm gonna change this. Papa should be home soon. You can go look for Papa. Let's see. Like I said, I'm gonna send this to myself real quick. Oh, she's having a little bit of an existential crisis. And she's wrestling with herself now. Honey, take a nap. You're cranky. You are cranky. Sometimes she gets cranky and she actually needs a nap. Just like a toddler. And then other times she'll have a tantrum and she'll just lie there and she'll be like, bye, Miss Chibi. Yeah, let me know if you have any other questions at any point. We'll do our best. I did do an electric eel, yes. So the only ones I've got left that I haven't thought of are, I'm not doing a regular shark because I did a hammerhead, but I mean, I've done 24 so far, and the only ones I've written down that I have left are... I just did a lobster. I want a sea slug. I want a flat fish that's a frisbee, which I'm actually going to make that one a flounder. And the flounder I made before, that's going to be a brill, I think they're called. I did a frog. I did a dolphin. Whales are too big. I was going to do a whale, but then I was like, no, they're too big. It's going to look weird. Because if I shrink down a whale, it'll either look too much like a dolphin or it's just not gonna look like a whale. So, and I did a Nautilus, so I'm damn near out of ideas. Done a seahorse. Sea dragon I haven't, but I did a seahorse and they're basically the same family. D-pad, I say use it. It might actually end up being a therapeutic thing one way or another. If you're on the rocks right now with your girlfriend as an artist, hey, use it. You know? Sawtooth shark is a chainsaw. That's a little dark. But I've thought about a oh my god, why am I blanking? The shark that's like a swordfish. What the hell? I've tried to think of a swordfish, but you guys gotta understand there's this like super thin line between too dark and just fun mischief that I think on 2 of them I dipped a little too dark. One is the manta ray. That one was a little bit too dark for me. And then the next one's going to be tomorrow's. That's the plugging the blowhole of the dolphin. If I can make the dolphin look less disrupted, I think I might, but I don't think I can. So that one might end up being a bit dark. A clownfish I had written down too, but I don't know what I'd do for it, because I also tried to pick sea creatures that had, believe me, I've looked at many sea creature lists at this point, but I wanted to look at sea creatures that had things that were kind of obvious that I could use, you know, like the flounder being flat like a frisbee, you know, so I can use them as a frisbee, but stuff like that. So if they don't have anything that's kind of like a defining feature, it's a lot harder to actually make them work. Sorry, I'm looking for my easel. And I don't know where I put it. Shh! No. Stop. Here's your wubba. I gotta find my easel, you guys. Hold on. I'll bring out some Journey June stuff right now, just in case. But I put my easel away last week, and now hey, stop! Hold on. If she's gonna keep doing this, I'm gonna mute it real quick. Okay, I think I helped here. I could do the duel with the swordfish. I'd have to draw 2 of the mer people, but that's not a bad idea. I can try that, see how it feels. I'll usually like draw them out and see how it feels first as a thumbnail. Because I don't want to get too far away from like a formula I've established, but Joplin clownfish. See, here's the thing about the clownfish. So that's one of those ones that has a pattern. And remember what I was saying earlier about doing patterns for people in a coloring book? It's like, if I don't do the... Really? That one? Hold on. Not right now. Not this one. Sorry, honey. No squeaky things. You're gonna make everybody deaf. You can do this guy if you want. There you go. Gosh, you just devoured it. A sailfish. I'll look up what a sailfish is. I've thought about a mola, but god damn, they're ugly. I'm writing these down. I don't know what a marlin is, I'll be honest. How's that different than a swordfish? Good job, Jazz. Good job. However, don't spend all your time on redraws. A lot of artists think they're doing a good thing by doing redraws. Do maybe 1, 2 a year, because really, it's better to start doing new stuff. To always be creating new stuff, because then you're not regurgitating old ideas and things like that. Because you want to get used to actually making new ideas. Things like that. Can you hear her? Like, can you hear her going crazy right now? Hey, Moltar! How you doing? Alright, so, just to show everybody how to create your hero. So, before June, were I anyone else, or even me in general, but if I was, like, not in charge of the challenge, I would actually do a bunch of concept art. So when I was doing concept art for last year's, some of you saw that I was doing this for my villagers, and honestly I didn't end up really using any of those because I just did the villagers kind of whatever once I actually did them. But the first real one I did was actually for Nightshade. Nightshade had suggested, hey, can I get, you know, a bear? And I was like, well, could I make it a witch bear? And it was just like, I think one day I just wanted, like, suggestions, which I never do. So when I was asking for suggestions, it was pretty rare. And I had asked for it, and Nightshade had said something about, you know, doing like a bear of some kind. So I did Hazel, and I'm trying to find her online. Ugh, what a pain in the butt. Let me see if I can find the original. So I had drawn her, and I realized she would be a pretty solid hero for Journey June, so I decided to just go with it and do that. Yeah. So here was the thing. This was her original. Yeah, as long as it's a hobby, Jazz, you can do whatever. But if you ever want to make more strides in both your creative muscle, where you learn how to think of ideas, the only way to learn how to think of original ideas is to start thinking of our original ideas and getting in the mindset of doing that. Really important. But if you never need to get there, that's fine. So this was the original concept art for Hazel, and then I had to simplify her, and simplifying her for the story. So you'll have to ask yourself, you know, once you've done your hero, hey, you know, how do I make this easier to draw? So you have to cut back on a couple things. Jesus. She is a busy. So then I cut down on how much detail was in her dress and her overcoat, how detailed her shoes were, hat, everything. I just pulled back on everything, which you'd have to do to make it, you know, first of all, to make it more kid-friendly, which I ended up wanting to make it into a kid's story, and second, to just, you know, make it easy to draw a bunch of times. So that's where that went. And then as I got to more places in the story, I mean, I was trying to draw like certain scenes, looking for style choices, things like that, color palettes. But this was all kind of throughout the month where I just wanted to stay in the mindset, but maybe I finished that day's rough. And really all my days just look like this. They were just in squares. That's it. It was basically just a storyboard. So however you can do it. If you find out you don't want to do comic panels, don't do them. Just switch over to doing whatever's easiest. Maybe instead of doing action shots and panels, you just want to do one illustration for every prompt. That's fine, as long as you're not combining prompts. Here was another one. This was like Hazel's honey setup, where she was making other different types of infused honeys. Like, what is it? Marigold, aloe, lilac, willow, clover, and dandelion. So that's in one corner of her shop. If I show that at any point, I don't know if I actually will, who knows? But that's concept art. I'm trying to find the concepts for the other characters. So as she went throughout her story, I ended up having a couple more characters. One was a skunk that was a perfume chick. So she's got a little basket for collecting all the flowers to make her perfumes. She's more of a mentor to Hazel because they both are in similar, I guess, trades, where Hazel's doing infused honeys, she's doing perfumes with like essences and things and imbued in them. So we go to her house at one point, and before I even, you know, went into her part in the story, I wanted to design her. So if you're going to introduce another character in the story at some point when it's coming up to it, because there's, I think, at least 2 points in the template where you can insert another character. The day before, if you have time, I think it'd be good to actually do a legitimate, you know, concept of that character so that, you know, you can know where you're going with it. And then another character was this porcupine merchant who's got all his stuff, like, you know, attached to him and all these things. So he ended up obviously being simplified for the story, as did the skunk girl. So it really depends. But I think it's smart at least to stay a couple days ahead of the game from where you plan on being. Let's see. Now, to further show the hero creation thing, let's see. Does anybody right off the bat have any questions on how to create a hero? Like, any questions on character design, what's better, what's worse, things like that? Does anybody have any questions on it before I get going? One illustration per prompt, that should be fine. As long as you're not combining prompts into one. I had somebody doing that last year. I was like, this can't count because you're not actually doing the full template. So make sure you're doing it one per day. If not, you can do like 10 drawings per prompt, but you can't do 10 prompts for a drawing. You know. Let's see. Alright, so I'm going to bring up my clover pip. So good hero creation, honestly, start simple. You don't want to go all Final Fantasy on it right away when you're not used to hero creation or anything like that. Start simple, and you know, go from there. But ideally, put some things into the hero that you do like. Don't make it about yourself, the hero exactly, but take things you like and make the hero about those things, because then you'll find it easier to get in the mood to actually work on it and to love your hero because they're a part of you. They aren't you, but they're a part of you, which every character you ever make will have parts of you in them. So it's important. Alright, Fricka, thanks for coming. This should be recorded if anybody ends up wanting to watch it. Let's see. Okay, so I had to simplify the clover pip as well because for the enamel pin, actually. So that was a nice thing anyway because it forced me to simplify it even more to what it needed to be. So, see what I mean? She's all over the place right now, and I can't do anything about it. Maybe take her for a walk while you're still... Gabe, your hair looks great! Good job. It looks a little windswept though.
Yeah.
Can you take her for a walk?
Yeah.
Thank you. She keeps ringing the bell, so I think she needs to go out. But I can't tell if she's doing it for attention or... Yeah, okay, so... Like I said... So the clover pip is very simple, right? I made it primitives, very easy shape, so like if for whatever reason I just have to do this much that day, you'll know it's that character. Which is good. The hardest thing I think when you're actually making characters and drawing them many times is keeping the consistency of the proportions correct. That can be tough, because already I can tell I made her a little too tall. I don't know why I even called it a her, that's interesting. Anyway, so you have to find something on the character themselves to act like a measurement tool. So technically, on my main character sheet, the one that I prefer the best, the head is a lot bigger than the body, right? And the body kind of goes out a little bit more, but the body also is like half the size of the head. Because you go up there and you go down here and you look and you measure your own sheet. So this is really the reason to make character sheets. Make sure the character sheets you make are actually ones you can use. You know, and think of them like a formula, or even like break them down into math. You know, like this is the full size of the head, and then the bottom here is about half the size. So you can always take that and make sure it's consistent there. And the hands and the feet are about the same size too. Except the feet are like little, they're almost like booties. They're like that, and the hands are honestly just nubs. They curl up like this a little bit. That's actually how I sleep. Does anybody else sleep like this? Where you kind of curl up your hands and you're kind of like, you know, it's probably really bad for my wrists, but it happens. And then the most detailed part of it is honestly the little petals that are on the flower. So the nice thing is, while doing the actual story, I won't have to necessarily do these. Because honestly, if you do a character design really well and you're able to understand proportions, and no other character really has those same proportions, like you could almost tell this is the original one. You know what I mean? Like that is the clover pip. Even before I put in the eyes, it's like you could know that because of these proportions, it's that. So trying a bunch of different ways of simplifying a character is important. So let's say you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do a chibi, all right? And I do kind of say to maybe start with chibis, honestly, because they are simple. Like, think mobile game art as opposed to Final Fantasy console. Because Final Fantasy console has that processing power where your phone, It might, honestly, but you don't want to go that far. So think of your own energy and your own ability every day to create as more on a mobile game level than a PS4 console sort of thing. So if that's the case, let's say you've got some boots going on here, and you know, maybe you'll try to stay you'll attempt to be simple, and then you'll look back at it later and you'll be like, oh no, that's actually not simple. So if you draw it out first, right, and maybe they've got, I don't know, a sword, who knows. And also, you don't have to do fantasy. You could do whatever genre you want. If you want it now times, if you want it sci-fi, if you want it to take place in a shoe store, in a grocery store, I don't care. Whatever you want. The genre is totally up to you. So let's say they've got like big gloves. Okay. And honestly, some parts of character creation, you want a good simplified character to have different pieces on themselves reflect other pieces. So a solid character would usually have the boots and the gloves almost match. At least in color, I would say. So if you're staying simple, like having this same V-cut out of the glove and then echoing it on the shoes is just going to make it simple and easier to remember. So let's say he's like this. He's got the V up here, let's say. He's got his finger here. And then the sword, make it simple. Maybe it's just wood, you know. Because you can always go and make, you know, the drawings way more intricate later on if you want to. But for the sake of the story, I would say to keep it as simple as possible, you know. Let's say he's a little dude, he's got maybe, you know, longer ears, whatever reason. Got some eyes going on. Hey, I'm a happy guy, right? So all we're saying is to like start your hero and get a character design you like, that you would feel comfortable drawing, let's even say hundreds of times potentially. Like if you end up doing a comic, you're gonna have to get used to drawing something hundreds of times. Hundreds. So make sure it's something you like. Let's say he's wearing a hat. I like doing hats like this. Right? And it comes around here. So let's say this is a hat. Right? Okay. Another simplified thing, just wearing a vest. Right? Or you could do like overalls or something. Just picking out more simplified things. Baggy pants here. Stuff like that. Okay. Or you could do like a giant belt. So also with color, and I wouldn't even think about color, honestly, don't even touch color the entire month. I'm serious. It's not going to gain you points. It's not going to do anything for you right now. Do not color these. Do not even get, I'd say, this far on a lot of your drawings. I'm looking for this kind of stuff. So at least you know what's happening that day in that prompt. So later on, July, August, whatever, whenever you go back to your story, you have a full 100% done story. But maybe it's not drawn 100%. That's fine. That you can go back to any time. However, going back to a mindset and being at that place in that story at that moment in time, trying to get back there again when your story's not done, it's near impossible to get that exact same feeling. I'm trying to think of an analogy in real life. It's just like being nostalgic, right? You can't ever feel the exact same way you felt at a certain moment in time. So when you're writing a story, you want to do it consecutively, as close to itself, being in the same mindset as possible. Because having that all there at the same time is going to keep you in the zone. If you leave the zone and you try to get back to the zone, you might not get there again. You just might not. So it's better to utilize the fact that you've traveled there. You know, let's say you're on day 12 and suddenly you're thinking of quitting, which that's another thing. Once you get halfway through, you're going to think about quitting. because either you'll think your story's not good enough, you don't have any time for it, you think. There's always time for everything. If you're one of those people that's like, I don't have time to draw today, that's a damn lie. You can figure out 20 minutes to draw at some point in that day. And if you ever want to be like a freelance professional artist of any kind, you will have to break yourself of excuses like that. You have to have zero excuses. And unless someone fucking dies in your family, you should be able to draw every day. Alright? There's just no excuses. You can't afford, literally, to have excuses. So you might as well get used to it now, you know? Let's say you were doing more of a space thing, right? And let's say this was beyond what I felt like doing. Maybe this is too complex for me. What if I want to do a little spaceman or a little space person, right? Hey, Jazz. So I'd simplify it even more. And when I simplify things, I break them down into being like extra simple. So like I almost think of everything like a beanbag. You can think of things in terms of like primitives too, like circles, rectangles, all that kind of stuff. But the next step is to like give it weight and things like that. So this is technically a rectangle that's kind of got a beanbag thing to it, and then these are just bent cylinders that are his legs, right? So if you're not used to like character design, this might be a little tough for you, but as long as you play with it a bit, you could get there. So since he's a little spaceman, let's give him a little readout thing with just like 2 things there. Maybe he's got a little cord coming off his helmet, right? And maybe he's in here. I'll make it a little girl. How about a girl? Maybe she's got pigtails. But like, if at any point I wanted to, make this not chibi, I could always just go back through the story and make them more intricate, because at least I have thumbnails that I made that tell me what's going on in every stage. Like I have about 4 stories that are in different phases of being done, right? I've got some in thumbnails, some that are half fully illustrated, whatever, but at least they're all fully thought of and they're all fully done. So I can go back to any of those and finish them at any time. That's the nice thing about actually sitting down and finishing a story. The shitty thing is when you can't actually finish a story and you try to go back to finish it. That's almost impossible. Like I was saying, it's like pining for something nostalgic. If you're trying to feel like you did in 1997 playing a video game and you're 40, good luck. You're not going to be able to do that. And it's kind of the same thing when you're trying to go back to a story. You're not in that same mindset anymore. And getting back there is near impossible. Especially if you're one of those people that has all these stories from like 10 years ago that are half done. You have changed so much in that time, it's not going to be the same story anymore. Regardless of what you tell yourself, I'll go back to it at some point. That's nice, but you're not going to be able to keep the same voice in the story. You're not going to be able to do it the same amount of justice that you would have either then or restarting it now. And sometimes it's good that you outgrow a story. Maybe it's not who you are anymore, Technically, I had a story in high school that this was before Supernatural or anything, like the show. And honestly, everything I did in that story, probably about 80% of it was done by Supernatural. So I didn't have this aching to want to do it anymore because someone else did it. And it was good. It wasn't the way I would have done it, but I felt sated. Okay, this has been done. Awesome. Now I don't have to do it anymore. And I mean, sometimes it's like that, sometimes it's not, but... Honey, go get some water.
Wawa? Some wawa?
Give her watermelon. Watermelon. Mushy, go get some watermelon. Show her the Tupperware.
Some wawa? Watermelon?
Watermelon? Go get some watermelon, honey. Oh, see, I don't even like these feet. Gabe, come bring it up to her or something. I mean, you can do, like I said, more realistic things, but as far as we want you to go for Journey June, I don't want you to even decide on a style, really. I want you to do some concept art to get yourself, like, pumped for it, but I don't want you to necessarily think you have to keep up that style throughout the challenge, because that's going to be really tough. And like I said, the people that actually tried to do the illustration, like, part of it to 100% every day, think about it this way. A lot of monthly challenges are just, here's your prompt, do the illustration. It's like, oh yeah, okay, that's easy. For some people, even that's hard. Think about if you had to think of that image's story or that image's place in a grander idea, and trying to place it and remember all these consistencies that you have to keep straight in it. It's a whole nother level of what you have to think about. Like, it's more mentally intensive than just one illustration. So that's where we're saying, don't illustrate it. Don't actually draw it, because we want you to use that mental, processing power elsewhere. We want you to think about it for their place in the story and, what's going to happen. And thinking forward and backward in the story for one moment in time is important. So don't illustrate it. So almost figuring out the style is not even important right now. Just knowing who your hero is important. It's almost like a choose your own adventure, like text-based story. You've got a hero, you know kind of what they would look like in your head, but there's no visual to kind of associate with it. So as long as you can kind of know throughout your storytelling who they are and what they look like, that's all you really need. Hi, Kristen. How you doing? Oh, let's see, what else? Gabe, what do you think's the most important thing with hero creation? Other than keeping it simple, don't overdress them, like what else? Think about their motivations. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, alright, so thinking about what they do, so example, this is where I didn't want people to world build, because your hero will world build for you. And what I meant by that is, I showed you guys Hazel earlier, right? The links that are further up here in the chat. So here is Hazel's thing. So all I thought of was Hazel's job, okay? That's all I thought of. So I made her drawing, right? I'll bring it up here. Okay. So yeah. So I had developed who she was by kind of her job, where she was in the town, all these sorts of things, but it has to mainly come from how they look. So I wanted a witch bear, right? And I didn't want her to be a normal witch. I wanted her to have these other things that she kind of does, where she actually makes healing honey, right? So she's a bear, but since she's kind of like a witch / alchemist / herbalist. Anyway, so she takes honey and she imbues it with certain properties, right? So I love that idea, and that was the idea for her character. Now, just because that's what I made her, that's her job, you can kind of figure out what everyone around her would kind of be. So you can either have the town around them accept that she's a witch, you could have them not accept it, and that's all going to play into the hero, who they are, how they act, Maybe they're resentful of the people around them. Maybe they're really good friends with everybody, because for her, she's actually held a little bit higher than most because she's almost like a doctor, right? She has healing properties and stuff, and there's no stigma to witches in this world, right? Which there shouldn't be stigma towards. Anyway, so like the other villagers, they have their own trades too. Like there's one guy that sells squashes and vegetables and things. There's a blacksmith. There's some typical ones too, so that it kind of places you in this world that you're familiar with some things but not others, but you learn to accept them because of the things you do know. Okay, so all that though comes from just how I design her. You know, from, you know, this little pack is where she kind of gets all her herbs and stuff. She keeps it on her front because, you know, she's a bear, but it's like she's got a belly, so it kind of points it up towards her. Like thinking of how their accessories work with them. And I would even say this is too detailed for you guys too. Like, go easier than this even. Like, if you look at any page of the story on my Instagram, they are not to this level, right? They will only be to this level once I actually start making the story. But this can be enough to get people hooked into wanting to read what I did do. So if you look, these are actually what my entries every day were. And yours can be that simple or simpler. It's fine as long as you know what's going on. Hey, Mayfox. So all I'm asking is, before June hits, to establish your hero, okay? Make them reflect kind of who they are, what they do, all that sort of stuff, because those things, those little things that you put on them, are going to reflect the world around them later, once we put them in the actual world, right? So once June hits, even actually next week, I think, well, what day is June 1st? Let me look it up. Calendar. Okay, perfect. So June 1st is next Saturday. So I'll probably have a kickoff stream for that on Friday, because today's Friday. So a week from today, I'll go through like what you should be thinking about for your hero, how to actually talk about and think about what they're gonna do. Because a lot of people are like, all right, I have this hero now, how do I actually put them in a story? Because you have to think about it like, you made this doll, you're gonna drop it into this world, but there's like a disconnect there that some people can't actually figure out. You know, so thinking of how does the character make decisions? How do I actually think of everything that's happening around them? And honestly, it's a lot of brain power. This challenge requires a lot of thinking. So that can be kind of hard for people. And when you have like a lot of things you're thinking about in a day, this challenge could be kind of hard. But if you take 20 minutes, I swear to God, to actually just draw it out after you've thought about it in your free time, you should be able to do this no problem. Like, no problem. Because honestly, at least unlike an illustration challenge, the illustration challenge is actually taking very set amounts of time. Like, some people take, 4 hours on a Mermay post or something. And this is like, unlike that. You don't have to take that much time at all to do it. So yeah, next Friday I'm going to be talking about at least how to take your hero and start them in the story. And for the most part, the calendar we've got is actually like basically done. We were thinking about changing 2 of the days, but I can't see what's really wrong with them like I did last year. Like last year there were 2 days that felt a little bit off, and we were thinking about changing them, but now I'm not so sure, honestly. So if you look at this, actually Tumblr should have a lot. Yeah. This is a good one. Okay, so I'm gonna put this here. This may change, but I don't know, most likely not. It's kind of a concept challenge. It's more than that. I'd say it's a consistency challenge. It's a planning challenge. It's being able to have something that continuously goes in a linear fashion. A lot of people aren't able to even think like that. And that can be really hard. So learning, well, this thing ties into the next day, ties into the next day, ties into 2 weeks from now. How? Right? So it is good to think ahead and look at, okay, here's an example. So I'm trying to pull this out of my butt right now, but a new character is added, day 9, suitable savior. So last year, it could be somebody that saves you, but it could be somebody that maybe hurts you. Let's say maybe they meet a bully, right? And the bully somehow actually teaches them something about themselves, or they help the bully. Some way a character gets added to the team, sort of. So, or at least the story. And that's up to you, because you can figure out at that point, like later on, well, let's say, so the Babbling Bard, maybe for Babbling Bard, which is someone gives them directions, maybe the person that you met, the new character is added, knows this person because maybe they're the same race, or maybe they were born on the same planet, or all this sort of stuff. So you want to kind of, once things start, once you've got your hero, you can start planning ahead, because the more you can actually intertwine your story and put things in the beginning and the end that tie to each other, it's going to be that much stronger of a story. So, I mean, that's kind of important. I'm trying to think of an actual analogy too. So like, How to Train Your Dragon is a very, very solid movie in terms of script. It is so solid. The second and third ones, not as much. But the first one with, Hiccup losing his leg, tying to Toothless losing part of his tail, and them having that in common, that sort of thing, they had to know that final battle would have Hiccup lose his leg, right? Like, at some point, they're like, oh man, we could tie this together where they become even stronger friends because they have this other, like, amputee problem, as well as just being really good friends. So when you can do that, that makes it so much stronger, and that made their bond that much more unique. That made their story, among other things that the whole story is awesome. But in terms of just Toothless and Hiccup, having that in common really helped them, and then also that strengthens the bond with Gobber too, because Gobber's missing all sorts of junk, right? I think he's got a hand gone and a leg gone. He's like, well, I can help Hiccup with that. I've been through that. So there's even more depth to that, of having that thing later on that was called, in the beginning of the movie. Because we're introduced to characters that have amputee type problems, right? And then Toothless loses part of his tail, right? And then at the end, Hiccup loses part of his body too. So it's that sort of thing. Things usually come in threes too. So when I'm saying like look forward in the prompts, that's what I mean. It's a planning challenge. This is what you have to do to make stories, right? And luckily, the hero's journey, like I said, I've broken it up into basically digestible days. But if you didn't have this, think of how hard it is to make a story. And it can be pretty hard, but as long as you remember to call back to things earlier in the story, to set things up on purposefully, that's all you really need to remember to make a good story. The problem with stories is usually that people don't answer questions that they posed. So if a movie starts a question, either that maybe no one even asked for, or if they start a question and then they never answer it, that sucks. unless there's a sequel. So you have so many different layers there. And this is where some of you that are actually starting, you wanted to say, hey, can I make a sequel to last year's story? I'm saying kind of no to that for this reason. Okay, you're not planning all the stories at once, which you kind of have to do to make a solid trilogy. You need to have questions that are asked in the first movie that get answered in the last movie. You need questions in the first movie that get answered at the end of that movie. You need some that are asked in the second movie, answered in the last movie. Things like that, because otherwise you're going to have all these movies that are just so chunked, right? Or stories that are chunked where it's like all the answers got, all the questions got answered in the first one. Well, then why do we even need a sequel, right? So a good trilogy or something is planned ahead of time to be a trilogy. Some of you might know a sequel or something that it's like the first one was so tight and nothing was left unanswered. Why do we need a sequel? Right? So example, Venom. If you saw Venom with Tom Brady, that had a bunch of answers and questions that got asked, and it was pretty tight, right? And then they asked a question at the end, which leads to them to have a second one, which makes sense with how the rest of the movie went. So that's a good setup, right? But usually you can tell when that feels a little last minute. If it doesn't appear at any other time in the movie, or there's no other allusion to it, or nothing like that, it might be like a last minute decision, and they might not even have a third one, right? It could just be a sequel. So I feel like when you can tell that, it's like, okay, that's cash cow stuff. But anyway, does anybody have any questions on that? On any of that? Because I know I just rambled. I think we went over a couple things here. So, not to scare anybody with the trilogy or sequel talk or anything, but just think about the story right now that you've got. If you had a story last year, try to start a new one this year. Because if you're a true storyteller, you're going to be able to tell tons and tons of stories and just whatever, right? Just have them done. Knock them out. All that kind of stuff. Who did I mean? Tom Hardy. God damn it. Tom Hardy. Not football Tom Brady. Tom Hardy. Yeah, football guy. Yeah, sorry. Tom Hardy. I knew a Tom Hardy in school, too. It's so weird that I always say Tom Brady. Sorry, Tom Hardy. I love Tom Hardy, too. That's the weirdest thing. Let's see what else. I just want people to be prepared. The most frustrating thing about having one of these challenges is that not everybody sees everything when you put it up. So even if I put up all these things like, don't base a character off yourself, don't do this, don't do that, people are still going to do it because they don't see that post. So that becomes the frustrating thing with running an art challenge. Oh, Wobbles, thank you for the raid. Welcome, everybody. So right now we're going over hero creation. I just did these really quick, but we're talking about last year when I was making character design sheets for my Journey June story. No one needs to go this far with their Journey June stuff at any point. I highly suggest you don't. I really want all the quality to be around this, not even to this point. These are fine. I am totally cool with that. I actually encourage it. If anybody even adds color to their Journey June, I'm gonna tell them not to. Because really it's not an illustration challenge, it is a planning and consistency challenge, okay? Because it's about stories. The emphasis is not on illustration, it is on storytelling. So just because we're artists running it doesn't mean it's an artist challenge. So I think last year we even had writers. I had writers ask me if they wanted, if they could partake. I was like, hell yeah, go for it. Rifter! Where you been? Where have you been? Man. Oh, thanks, Cactus. I was too lazy to put in contacts today. So, and I got this sun beaming in my face and I can't do anything about it. It's driving me nuts. Actually, I think I could put... Oh, why didn't I do that? That would work. Damn it. Where are my magnets? Magnets! As Gabe would say. Magnets. Well, maybe I can actually just... I don't know. So I've been talking about hero creation, how to make a good hero for Journey June, all this kind of stuff. Because my problem with running Journey June is that people always try to show off, or they try to do too much too quick, and all those things are going to make you fail. Honestly, it's better to keep your stuff simple and amp it up later than to try to, you know, go crazy and then, you know, figure out you can't do it. Does this work? Yeah, that works. Now I gotta find tape. You can see pretty well how the quality of the server from colors. I mean, you're not the only one, Serenity. At least you kept going with it. Okay, we had some people though that they were doing color and actual illustrations every day, and they fell off real quick. Like, I can't tell you. It's like, that's not what it's about. And I think they got into it thinking it was another art challenge, and it's not. You kept up on your 3D? Good, Rifter, good. Proud of you. Mega nuts. How was your stream, Wub? Yeah, Wubbles, you were doing full-on paintings. Which, as commendable as that was, you could maybe even swing it this year with how much you've done in the past year. But even with all the like expertise you've gained in the past year, I wouldn't even tell Gabe to do it. You know, and Gabe knows it too. Like, that's not the point. The point isn't to make a final finished, like, fully illustrated story. The point is to just have a story that you can fully illustrate and stuff. Because, you know, you need something to edit to be able to edit something, right? Like, you can't edit something that doesn't exist. So, finish it, then you can edit it. Exactly, and the only times I got this far with doing any sort of illustration for my story is when I wanted to get excited about it again, or if I was feeling like, okay, all these sketches are kind of looking lame, I'd have to go back and just kind of find my excitement again, because if you look, and I just had shown this a little bit ago too, but these were the quality of my sketches, and this is even a little bit more than I'd even ask of you guys to do. I would say that you could do less than this, because it's mainly for you, okay? Whatever, like, amount of sketching you need to do to know what's going on, it's fine, as long as it's for you, and you can prove you did every prompt to get the class at the end of the month. That's all we care about. So, next week, on next Friday, the last day of May, I'm going to be doing a stream about how to take your hero and actually start throwing them into the story. Because a lot of people have a problem with actually transitioning, okay, here's my hero, I've made him, I've got all these things about him, and put him actually in the story. So we're going to talk about that. Because that's one of the biggest, first, hardest hurdles is to get started. My hero has a uniform and a civilian outfit. Should I roughly sketch them out now? Yeah, I mean, planning is great overall. However, Mayfox, I would almost say to... God, I would say to stick with just one. Because you know sometimes how cartoon characters are always wearing the same outfit regardless? I almost wonder if you should just have the one. Like, how much are we seeing of both those outfits? Like, would it be better to just show the uniform all the time? How long does it take place over? Like, if it's only a day, maybe just keep the uniform on the whole time. Or if you do have them switching up outfit things, you have to make, like, their hair or something else super distinct so they actually are recognizable as that same character. Don't have another character that has like the same hair, same all that kind of stuff, because that's going to be confusing. So if you do have them changing what they're wearing, you have to make some other part of them very distinct and recognizable so that we know it's still them even when they change their appearance. Does that make sense? This is where things get tricky. Like, I would almost say having that is almost putting a wrench in your stuff, but it's up to you if you want to tackle that, see how it goes. Because what you could do, let's say, is maybe you do want to do the uniform and the civilian clothes. Let's say you do the whole story at the end of June, you're like, you know what, maybe it would have been better if they just wore one. And then when you actually start illustrating the story, because you're not illustrating it now, when you actually start illustrating the story, you could make that change. So. Okay, distinct hair and skin tone. Cool. That makes sense. And I mean, you don't even have to do the skin tone technically yet. So if you look at, let's say my merjerks lately, my merjerks, like I've got people of color in there, I've got white people, I've got black people, I've got all kinds of people, but since it's a coloring book, I have to show it a different way. So you could color one of the intended, races differently if you wanted to, or if it's a kid and, maybe it's a little black girl who's got the coloring book and she colors everybody black, that's totally fine. Whatever they want to do, but I did have some intended races for certain ones, so, but you don't have to color them right away if you don't want to, because that's going to take time. So as long as you know, that's kind of all that matters right now, because like I said, this is still super bare bones. Oh, thank you, Wubbles. Tomorrow's going to be a little bit dark, and I'm sad about that, but I think I've got 2 tomorrows and the manta ray that were a little bit dark. But anyway. Mixed outfit of both. You mean for the entirety of it, Cactus? So they've got maybe like a security guard jacket and maybe jeans? Or how do you mean? I throw all the colors I could find. See, that'd be cute, Serenity. Yeah, I have like pink skins, blue skins. See, that's totally your touch on it. I think that's great. I'm excited to actually put this book together. Not only just for the fact of having another book, but selling it and having like half the proceeds go to charity. I hadn't like thought of that before, and once I did, I was like, oh my god, this is a great use of this month challenge. Why hasn't somebody else done this? You could, Cactus. My only fear would be like if they're wearing something that wasn't part of what's acceptable for the uniform. So if they've got the security guard jacket and jeans and they're at work, maybe jeans aren't allowed. But I guess if they're, let's say they're wearing their security guard outfit at their job, and then they leave their job and they're wearing jeans and the jacket, as long as the jacket's still there, that could work. Yeah. Still might be confusing why they switch their pants though, because at that point it's like, why not just wear the whole thing? So I guess it really just depends on the occupation and how much time this is over. Because, I mean, your whole story could maybe take place in a day. You could spend 30 days to write someone's story that took place in a day. I mean, isn't that... I never watched it, but isn't that what 24 is? Isn't it just Kiefer Sutherland, like, in a 24-hour day or something? So I doubt he usually changed outfits unless he's, like, infiltrating something. But if you do have multiple characters, before they actually show themselves, you'll want to do, some sort of preliminary sketch of them. So you at least know what they look like and if you need to simplify their outfit. And I mean, everybody's outfit that you make should reflect either their job, who they are, what they, do on a daily basis, something like that. There should be something there that tells you about them, so you could take them out of their scenario. Yeah, Mayfox, if you're just curious and you're willing to go through it, go for it. Because that's part of the fun, making a character and like having them tell you what they do and don't want, you know? Like right away, Hazel, her original state, let me see if I can find it again. I'll show you what she was originally. I was kind of scared too because I had her original concept art in my originals bin at a con, at a couple cons, and I'm so glad she didn't sell because I ended up pulling her aside for me to keep. But her original design is the one I just linked, and then, you know, once you've done that, that's kind of the original concept sketch, and then after I thought more about her story, I dumbed her down a lot. Like, I simplified her to this so I could not only draw her easily many times, but also for the demographic I'm shooting for. So like young adults and kids, that is way too like realistic for what I wanted. So think about your demographic too. This is always important. Whatever product you're making, whatever, anything you start, who's your demographic? Because it's going to kind of change some things that you do. You're still doing what you want and what you want your way, but it's important to know, okay, well, kids. I do want to do this as a kid's book. And because of that, I should make it more simple because too much detail turns kids off. Like, they won't pay as much attention, they won't, you know, imprint as much with it. So knowing those things is important. So think of who it's for. If you're doing like a gritty, violent sci-fi comic, that's going to have its own look, right? I mean, it's not going to be cute and simplified. It's going to probably have lines everywhere. It's going to look messy, and it's going to, you know, depending on who your audience is. And this is where it sucks, but you got to kind of stereotype. Like, you think gritty, violent sci-fi comic, who do you think of? And I think we all kind of think of the same demographic. It's usually like middle-aged dudes, maybe they like metal, I don't know, right? So like that's where my head goes, but usually it's men for whatever reason, or like, you know, at least girls who are heavily into that, you know. But if you had to think about how many. Oh, thank you, Doris. But yeah, it's interesting. 8 days. Wow, really, Ebony? That's crazy. What series is that? John makes them curious because they were not from the same continent. Yeah, and Serenity, honestly, I feel like I could get that from your character designs because of how they look. They weren't quite fully like Victorian, which that ended up being the steampunkness of it, because steampunk lends itself usually to more Victorian era. And the other two were medieval, like, and they were probably more, you know, because Victorian and medieval actually have a lot of time between them, but medieval is usually a lot more simple. They have visible stitching, nothing's as ornate, all that kind of stuff. Like, you know, certain eras have certain, like, attributes that are very true to them. You know, Victorian is elaborate, it's intricate, it's almost overload, it's too busy, that sort of thing. Where medieval is very bare bones, very simple, you know. Like, you could tell if there was an era for Hazel, it would probably be some time in medieval, you know, era. Something like that. Like, I didn't even think about it, but I have like an era that's apparently always in my head that I'm always doing, but I never actually consciously think about it. You too, thank you. I hope you had a good stream. So, let's see. Any more questions on any of that? These are all really good questions though, you guys. You're asking awesome stuff. Thank you for the follow, Doris. And then what was interesting was when I was figuring out the style for this book, I was doing like style frames. I was like, do I actually want to watercolor the whole thing like actually watercolor, or do I want to use digital watercolors and just try to get the same effect? I've decided that after doing one style frame that I want to do it digitally, because I have a problem, and this is going to be different for everybody. I have a problem with consistency with my watercolor, but I love the look of watercolor, and I really think that that was what I wanted for this story. So the only way I can get consistency with watercolor with what I know right now, where my skills are, like it would take me years to get to the point where my watercolor is consistent to the level I want it to be. So what I can do instead is do watercolors digitally. So that's probably what I'll end up doing. After doing this, I'm like, yeah, I'm not consistent enough to do what I want to do. I want more cell shading. I just can't get there with how long it took and how much I am lacking in where I want to be. So knowing your strengths and weaknesses is also extremely important when you get to these sort of hurdles. You have to know what you're able to do and what you're not. I mean, stories sometimes can be really tragic too, just making them. I have one story that I've had for a long time, and it's still holding true in my head. Like, I can still see myself doing it. It still lends itself to what I'm into, what I'm about, all that sort of stuff. But I was waiting till I got more stories under my belt to actually do it justice. And as long as I can get to the point where I feel like I can do it justice while still feeling the love I have for it and accepting that it may not be the exact same story I wanted it originally, should be okay. However, there are some stories that I've outgrown, and it's almost like losing a friend. You have this feeling like, you know, I still wish I could do it, but my heart's not completely in it, and I should probably cut those ties and use, you know, that time and that passion that I have for the other ones. And it's just choosing your battles, really. And maybe someday it'll come back after, you know, you've gone through some other stories, and it'll be like, hey, you can actually do better with me now. And it's like, okay, maybe that'll happen, maybe it won't. But being flexible is part of being a storyteller and an artist, you know. Yeah, the test tube babies, that one's actually more recent. No, this one I've only told 2 people about. Like, it's written out, it's got some thumbnails to it, but it's a bigger story. And remember what I've said about big stories? If you've never done any stories, like I thought of this before I had written a single story fully. So this was technically one of my first stories. So I still really like the idea, and I still like everything that's there, but it is a little bit grand, and not just because of, it doesn't have a ton of characters. Like, it's got a lot of bodies, I'll say. They're not all fleshed out characters. There's like 5 main characters, and the rest are just there. But I can't do it yet. I won't do it justice yet. And I know that, and it'll take me forever to do that one story, whereas I could do a bunch of stories right now and get way more experience and potentially even do that one faster by the time I get to it. So it's prioritizing based on knowing what you know about yourself, which is really important. It's knowing what you're capable of, knowing what level you're at certain things. Like, think of yourself like an RPG character. Where's your art at? Where's your storytelling at? You know, depending on those things, are you worthy of this story yet, this gear? You know, if you're not, you gotta grind some more, you know? And then, you ever play a game like that where you hold on to a piece of gear forever because at the time you get it, it's like super rare, and then by the time you get to the level of using it, you've got other gear that's maybe even better than that. So it's like it kind of falls to the wayside. Same thing. Yeah, Cactus, I actually think I'm gonna do the clover pip. I'll tell you why. Alright. I'll show you an example here. First of all, it's not very established. I know it seems like it, but it's not. I may change this last second too if I figure out another character I'd want to do. But for right now, it's this little guy. So, on my Patreon, this was one of my monthly rewards that my patrons got. And what do you got on your face? Is that on the camera? And I did a small little, not backstory even, but more of like a, what they are. So if you just like even pulled up a random character, let's say this guy, right? And I just told you, his job is to run around squash patches, curling pumpkin vines, and singing songs for moths that are waiting for the stars to come out. Let's say that's all I've written about him. That's basically all I've written about this one, which is how far I want you to get with your hero. I want you to design them to a point that they have attire on that can tell you a little bit about what they are, what they do, you know, maybe about their job, maybe about where they are. You know, it's all up to you. But just make sure you like the character enough to actually spend 30 days with them. But to not like them enough to do things to them that may have to be done. So if they end up dying, you have to be okay with that. Like that sort of stuff. And that's why we say don't use characters you've used before. Use completely new characters. Do not base them off you. Don't do anything like that. Make sure they're not established at all yet, and you can kind of throw them into whatever scenario need be. Okay? That's the main rule there. I had people last year even ask me if you can do fan art. No. Because not only is that established fully with potentially years and decades behind it, but there's also an establishment in your own nostalgia with that character. So absolutely not. This is not for fanfics. So make sure you create a character that is yours, that, you know, you spend a little time with. It's like meeting somebody on the street and you run into them a couple more times. That sort of feeling towards a character. You know, where you kind of care about them because it's a genuine, like, want to care about humanity thing, but if you don't see him again, it's okay. Because this is just for you to gain experience telling a story. It's not about the story even, or what happens with the story. If you end up loving the story, loving the character, and you actually make a book out of it, awesome. That's a happy side effect. But the real purpose of this is to actually go through the exercise of creating a story. This is a planning and consistency challenge, not an illustration challenge, nothing like that. So, Secrets of Mermay, Nicholas Whale. Wow, Ebony, I've never heard about that. Exactly, Serenity. So at least you have those characters, you've done work on them a little bit, you even explored their world for a time. Right? And because of that, you made a bigger story, and you know that you need to gain some more experience to see them again. Let's say they went off to live somewhere and you need to actually level up to go see them and tell the rest of their story. So maybe use this year as completely new characters, completely new story. Make sure the characters are at least true to you. Like what you enjoy doing, what you enjoy drawing, the type of style you'd want. But like I said earlier, I almost don't want you to draw every day in a style. I just want thumbnails. That's all I want. Like you. So for this, right, I would say this level every day. If not, just doing that is fine. So like if this is the concept art, the really nice fleshed out concept art, every day of your story, this is what I want them to look like. I know, Sniggle, right? It's insane. I can't believe, if I think about where I was a year ago and doing this challenge, it's incredible. It's truly incredible where, like, you can go in a year. It's beyond insanity to me. But the whole idea with this is to stay simple, make it doable for you, obtainable easily. This is supposed to be an easy challenge. Honestly, In terms of execution, I'll say this as a caveat. In terms of execution, this should be an easy challenge. In terms of thinking, it's probably one of the hardest things you're ever going to have to think about as an artist. It's 10 times more intricate than just thinking of an illustration. So there's that. 2019 needs to slow the fuck down. Agreed. Yeah, it's already halfway through the year, you guys. Like, that's insane. That's ridiculous. I don't even... Ugh. Hey, Serenity, that's what I want to hear. That's fantastic. Have we helped anyone else here with that? That was like one of our huge goals last year, was to help people get over their fear of perfection. Like, too many people were afraid to post things or afraid to even start sketching in their sketchbook because it wasn't going to be like a good piece according to them. Like, we just wanted you to draw. And example would be here. I'll show you my sketchbook right now. Keep in mind, usually, you know, professional artists and stuff, we have many sketchbooks at a time for different reasons. Like, I'm gonna have a sketchbook that's probably just for Journey June, but this one ended up just being for Merjerks. I didn't even think about it, but it's only 24 sheets. And I started it and I was like, okay, well, here was my first page for my Wickle, which was one of my Patreon rewards. Some of you have his button, you know, he's come a long way. And then at a con this past weekend, I ended up tearing out a bunch of things to give people website names and stuff. So that happens. And then I had some junk on the back of this that I think I didn't even realize it was the back of that. So there's that. And then here's a blank page. Right? Cool. So I can always go back to that. Here were my original ideas for all the animals to do. So I did this even before May started. Because I was like, oh, I'm going to do mermaids that are jerks, you know? So I wrote down all the sea creatures that I wanted to do. Because some I don't even care about. Some are bad, like, visually, that I don't really want to do. But at this point, I'm running out. So we talked earlier about a few I could do, but I'm okay with actually, like, if it's May 28th and I'm completely out of ideas, I'm like, okay, I'm done for this month. I'm okay with that. It's okay. Like, that doesn't mean I failed Mermay if I don't finish it up to the last day. I still made a book. Okay, that's winning in you know, my mind. So there are all these ones. These two became actual ones. These ones didn't, because they don't make much sense to what the idea became. So the idea became, once I get to it here, that each Merjerk has a certain distinct look to them, right? And I tried to even reflect different races. So, like, she was, in my mind, a little black girl. She was a little bit portly, right? And he was a little bit portly too. And even here, I tried to reflect certain things in their outfit throughout. And then she had a jump rope eel, right? He had a sea sponge. And then, you know, depending on what they are, I tried to reflect things like the hair. This style looks like the style of tail. You know, that sort of thing. This is for a friend. There's this guy. This I drew the wrong way. If you actually look at it on my Instagram, he's flipped. He's taking it away from him the other way. So I figured that out later. This was a walrus that I didn't get to do because I ended up doing a different kind of walrus. The seahorse one, I only got this far with it. Here's some blocks. I don't even know what that was from. Some other ones. Like, this is a sketchbook, you guys. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be full. This, I was trying to think of a new concept because I'm actually tired of mine a little bit. A couple more. You know? So, like, depending on how things go, and you're, you know, I was thinking of, like, the horseshoe crabs here. I really wanted to make the horseshoe crabs work because I love them, so I ended up doing this guy here. Here was an idea for a new pin. This was an airport in Chicago. Like, you know, this is probably going to be tomorrow's. I know it's really bad. But if I can make the dolphin not look so like he's in pain and just a little bit more like he's interrupted, I guess. I don't want him to look like he's in pain, but this one was gonna be this one, so I was gonna put a bunch of Nautilus in a net and have him using it like a balloon, but I didn't because A, I already have a balloon one, and B, it just didn't feel right for the Nautiluses. Like, it felt cheaping out, so I tried to think of another way that they could be used. So, going back though, after this was all the like little thumbnails of the cover for it. And this is on my Instagram if you want to see what the final one was like. But I tried different ways she was hitting it with different objects. Like one was going to be coral. There's one that is a stick. And I didn't know if I wanted her rejoicing after hitting it or hitting it while rejoicing. That is the blowfish I used. So, you know, and then this was for my clover, or not my clover pip, but my Maybell pip. So for my Patreon people, they got this little story about the Maybell pip that was on my Patreon. So that's my sketchbook so far. It's nothing special, you know. So if people ask to see my sketchbook, I have to say, like, well, I've only got 3 of them with me right now. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but I usually have 3 to 5 with me. And some are sketches, some are ideas, some are actual commission sketchbooks that I only use for commissions, stuff like that. So, but it depends. Like, however you work best, do it that way. I mean, if you see a popular artist doing it one way, you don't have to do that if that doesn't work for you. Do what works for you. If you try to fit yourself into somebody else's mold, it's probably not going to work. Yeah, Sniggle, you're good about accepting crappy drawings, which I like. I think that's great of you. Oh no, Serenity. You just scared the hell out of me. Like, I saw you before I heard you, and it was really creepy. Okay, so I think we talked a good amount about hero stuff. So another thing then, like, this is my little guy. Let's say that was my concept art. Hey, Eliza! I mean, I would start putting them in situations. Let's say you've already got your hero established to the point you're like, yep, this is them, I'm happy with this. Now what? If it's still before June, start putting them in just silly little situations and show how they'd be reacting. So this is kind of precursing next Friday when I'll start talking about like how to take your hero and transition it to using it in a story. Because like I said, I feel like a lot of people have a disconnect there where they have this hero, but it's like, how do I start it, right? That's hard. Oh, bye, Ebony. Thanks for coming. But one of the better things you can do to explore your hero is to put them in different situations for 2 different reasons. To start exploring their personality, but also to start exploring different views of them, which is kind of the point of a turnaround when people do character turnarounds. But if you think about it, that's not showing me how they sit or their posture when they're sitting, things like that. So it's important for you to like figure out how their costume, even if they have a cape, if they have bags, whatever they have, how that would sit around them or on them, or like these petals, right? Figuring out how those will work with them once they're sitting down and things like that. That's important to explore beforehand so that you're not thinking too much about it when the time comes, because when the time comes, you want to actually be thinking about whatever the prompt is that day and be focused mainly on that and what's happening in the previous day and the day and the next day. So exploring your character this way is important. So like if she's, God, I keep saying she. I don't want it to even have a gender, to be completely honest. I don't even know what they are. So if they're like sipping from, maybe they've got a leaf that they're, or no, a little blob of dew, right? Let's say And this is one of those questions. So top down, you know, it's a 4-leaf clover. So every petal, there's 4 of them. And then the top, and then it kind of goes down from there. That's from the top. Okay? And then they have little hands here. So the hands come out between the leaves. So it's important to know that to see how they actually even hold things. Now, if you're doing something that's humanoid, you're going to be in a better situation because you don't have to worry about all this other crap. But if you're someone that's doing like an alien, or maybe you've got like a centipede creature, highly suggest not doing that for many reasons. But the main one just being like, if you're doing something that either is missing hands or mouths or things like that, you want to explore how they're going to actually hold things. And you can get really clever with this too. Like an example is I had to do a paladin once that was a snake. So I had to figure out how this snake was not only holding a sword, but how it was using healing magic. So I utilized its tail as an appendage and its like chin and things like that. So you have to get a little bit creative. So depending on how much time you think you have this month to work on it, kind of design your character around that too, you know? Oh, bye, Cactus! Nightshade, hi! Night Serenity! For anybody that wants to use this as reference after it's recorded on Twitch, and then it'll eventually be on my YouTube. So you can always look at it again later if you gotta duck out. So I think it's cute though. Sometimes you figure out that you designed something without even trying. So in this case, like the feet come out in the front here. I'm trying to figure out how to actually set this up so you can see the correct coloring. There we go. Okay, so the feet come out below this little paunchy leaf, right? But if they were sitting down, the feet would most likely be on either side of the leaf or under it. Now, it's up to you to decide if that's cuter spread out or under the leaf. Personally, I have a thing where I need to always kind of show appendages. This is one of my weak points as an artist. I will sometimes try to put like a hand in view that like it shouldn't be there. I have a problem leaving things out because I fear that people are like, oh, there are no hands here. Can you not draw hands? It's like, no, it's the pose. But because I got so scared of hiding things, I went almost the complete other way, and I almost show them all the time, even when they shouldn't be seen. So I also like to show them, though, spread because it'd be cute, you know? So showing their feet out like this could be really adorable as a character trait. So, and they don't really have undersides or butts as far as I designed. So because of that, I have to bring the leaf down to cover what would be showing their butt. You know. Yeah, Tim. Well, that's the problem though. So no one ever talks about the other side of it. So yeah, when you're new at drawing and you don't know how to draw something, you usually hide it. But when you actually do know how to draw something and you have to hide it because of the pose, and that's what's good for the pose, you feel guilt because you know that people who are new hide things. So you have to go the other, like, 180 it, right? However, if that does end up happening, another problem might be is that you have a bad pose. Because a good silhouette will usually show, like, all the things, you know, showing. I don't know how many of you know about silhouettes, but you want to be able to see a lot that's not covered. Like, think if I right now was blacked out, like completely blacked out, where like my ears were just showing and you just saw a blob and all that stuff. Wouldn't it be stronger to see this, see my hands doing this, instead of one here and here where you wouldn't even see this one because there's black? That's what a good and bad silhouette would be. So you want to actually have a pose where you can see all those things. So technically, if I couldn't see that, I was probably failing at the pose, to be completely honest. But yeah, no butts on Twitch. You know what? I almost want to draw this thing like mooning people. And this is another thing too, like, don't forget to have fun with stuff. So like, I don't know, have your characters doing funny things. So like, you know, I think last year we had talked about, there, now it's mooning. How's that? Yeah, here we go. This is lifting up its pedal. How's that? Pornography. Wait, it'd be pedalography? No. I'm trying to make it about flowers. Anyway. Fiery Godmother. Hello, Yobi. Right now we're drawing a butt. For Wubbles. Specifically for Wubbles. There. There's a little flower butt. Lifting it up. There you go, Wubbles. You're welcome, Rifter. Good to see you again. Yeah, sleep well. Oh, cute. Yobi, I like that little emoji. That's cute. My innocent eyes. But I mean, it's fun to, like, you know, do things like this. So I remember, actually, since I've got this next to me, I think it was actually even Sniggle. We were talking about, or no, it was Sniggle and one other person, and now I can't remember who. I don't think it was Nightshade. But, let me see if I can find it. I just saw it too. Yeah, here. This honey, it's sweet as murder. Pollinate this. Like, when Hazel was mad at the bee, you know, like, having fun with your own stories can be really, like, just a morale booster for you doing your story sometimes. So, sweet little Hazel, little witch Hazel, you know, with a gun. Which, guns in even the past year, Jesus, haven't they changed? Like, oh god, it's like a gun anywhere is just scary as hell now. Thanks, media. I mean, that was sweet little Hazel from last year, right? Right? I don't know, so it's funny. Oh! Yobi! Thank you! As sweet as murder. Sniggle, right? Right? Thank you, Yobi. So, I mean, you know, it's this kind of stuff that it's like, just drawing your characters in different ways are really gonna make you just love them more and want to work on them more, you know? Because you want to love your characters. Also, if you guys do stories and stuff like that, and you work on loose leaf paper or anything, get an accordion file. Like, this one is just for that story. I basically have an accordion file per story. It's good and bad, but it's mainly good. Anyway, okay. So, like, putting your character in different situations, like, give me a situation. Oh, bother. See, I wouldn't do that, though, because that's alluding to Winnie the Pooh, and I've gotten way too many people telling me she looks like Winnie the Pooh, and she doesn't, but because it's a cute bear, like, I've gotten people saying Paddington, Winnie the Pooh, blah, 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 and that kind of stuff actually brings you down, because when you've spent so much time working on a character, working on a story, making it something original, and at face value, it reminds someone of something, those kind of things can really hurt your feelings, because you spend so much time with something. Like, people will see the cover of Grigor, and they'll think, oh, it reminds me of this. It's like, okay, but you're not respecting that he's his own character, you know, and that you might actually be, I don't want to say insulting, but I'm going to say insulting the artist or the storyteller on their actual piece. And Nightshade, I'm not even talking about you, like, doing that. That just reminded me that sometimes people do that, and it's like, they're not thinking that, you know, how could this affect the artist by me telling them that? So, yeah, comparison is never usually flattering, and what sucks is, as an artist that gets compared to a lot of things, I get compared to Brian Froud, Mouse Guard, all this kind of stuff all the damn time, and especially when you're at a convention and you've got someone new coming to your table every 30 seconds, you get this nonstop. It drives me nuts, but you have to learn to at least, if it hurts on the inside, you have to at least tell them thank you. It's one of those things. However, when somebody does say it reminds them of like Brian Froud or Beatrix Potter, those ones actually feel kind of good because they are my actual influences. But, you know, at the same time, it's just one of those things. You tell me like you have more cute drawings that are kind of dark. I mean, it's got a butt. I have a lot of dark drawings, Nightshade, just not from that story, I guess. Banana? But Jazzy, these things are like an inch tall. They can't eat a banana. What if the cute bear runs into Wubbles? No, okay, alright, here. I can tell my question was a little bit too vague. A very simple thing like it's eating or it's sleeping, or when you're making your own heroes, make sure to not get too specific right away, because that actually might hurt more than help. Just ask yourself simple things like daily whatevers. Be like, well, what would my thing look like eating breakfast? What would my hero look like driving a vehicle or getting to work or something like that? Very, very generic, simple things. Carrying a match. That could be cute and very scary. So here's another thing. It's good to bring that up. I will draw it, but before I do, the match. This is interesting. So you need to think about these things with your story as well. She wouldn't have any matches in her world. In all my stories, humans don't exist. I hate humans so much. So I never put them in, and I never put any remnants of humans in. If there are things that are like, you know, things humans have made or whatever, or we've made, it's that those animals have made them or something like that. So like the fact that Hazel has bags and things like that, like they made them, right? But a match, they don't look capable of having matches. You know, that's a very human item. So this is a great point, actually, May Fox. Thank you for bringing this up, because, you know, she's not gonna, they, I keep trying to make it genderless. They, wouldn't have matches, you know? But it is important, and I can just show what they would look like carrying one. But it's important to know what is and isn't in your character's world and why. Think about that. Are there humans anywhere? You know, because it's kind of like Mouse Guard in that sense. I'll go there just to help people out. There are no humans in there. There are no humans in like the Dark Crystal or anything like that, right? They're their own world. There are humans in Secret of Nim. That's why the mice and the rats are all using things that they've borrowed from the humans. So usually you can tell what, you know, when humans are present and when they're not. Sniggle, are you in another tornado watch? Tornado? Okay, so if there were a match, and I'm guessing this pin is actually probably bigger than what they'd be in real life. This is not to actual scale, we'll say. Just a storm. Wow, you guys have had so many storm things. Alright, so carrying a match. There you go. I mean, the feet are tiny, so you kind of wouldn't see them. But see how putting them in just the simplest situations is making me think about all their parts and how they move. You know, and I mean, animators have to do this. Comic book people have to do this. Everyone has to do this, because you're going to get a design of some kind. You're going to have to figure out how to draw it, how it works, how, you know, it moves, all these things. Whether you're an animator or not, you're going to have to figure out how it moves so you can actually draw it right. So, that sort of stuff. Let's see, what's another one? Let's make it on fire, too. That could be cute. So this is all also considered concept art. You know, you're doing concepts, you're figuring out how things work for that thing. So, and you don't always have to draw every part of them. But, here, we'll draw some. There you go. Sneezing. Okay. I could probably do that. Flooding? Oh, Sniggle, no. Oh, I'm so glad you love the packaging, Mayfox. Yay. Watch the world drown. I think if it sneezed, it would blow itself away, basically. So, how would the leaves move? Well, I'd probably push them that way. It'd be squinty. The other thing is, does it really have a mouth you can see? Here it's eating, but you never see the mouth. It's probably one of those situations where the mouth appears when it needs it, but isn't there when it doesn't. So I could either show the mouth going, or I could just show it like, you know, like that. So I think for right now, we could show the mouth and then show, because if we do decide to show the mouth, then we can actually say, okay, well, if we're showing the mouth, we can show the air leaving it, right? And that's just further saying, hey, they're sneezing. Whereas if we didn't show the mouth, we wouldn't have that extra imagery of the air leaving their mouth. So then we might be a little bit confused. So all this kind of stuff should go into, you know, when you're thinking of things. Like, think about what happens if you show that thing. Think about what someone would think if they didn't show that thing, you know? It's important to think about showing things and not showing things and what that means for the clarity of either the character or the situation, everything like that. And so the feet and the hands, and then off the ground. Like, I think they'd be technically blowing themselves off the ground. So, and then blades of grass obviously would be huge. So blowing them, you know, whichever way. Having some debris coming off is always good. That sort of thing. And then another thing would be to think about, in this case, how stiff are these petals? Do I want to make them super rigid and unmoving? Or do I want them to move in certain circumstances and not others? Or do I want them to be like flowy? You know, where they're really, if it was animated, it'd be really fluid. I think for this, since the middle's so dense, right? And they're kind of coming out, that it would be sometimes. If something dramatic happens, then yeah, they'll go. But not just the flowy one, you know. So in this situation, and none of these other ones, this one would probably blow them forward. And this actually takes some people a long time to learn too, is motion. Knowing when things would move, when they won't. How hard does something need to be blowing for it to move? These are all really good things to think about. Honestly, if you're doing character design in any sense, you gotta think about every single part of the character. And that's why it can take a long time to design a character, but then once you have, exploring them a little bit can be the fun part. But exploring them is also like, think about it this way. You program a character, and then you're putting them in a simulation. So you doing all these different situations of them is actually putting them in a simulation where you can actually figure out the bugs with their design. So, like if something didn't work on one of these in terms of, like maybe they couldn't walk or something because of something, then you'd have to omit that or change it, you know, for the sake of the design. Let's say there's a couple, because they're dense in here, and then maybe a couple come out or something. There you go, sneeze. Let's see. Choo. There you go. Choo. What about another one? Maybe something distressing. Can these clover being seen in the dark? I don't know. I think they sleep at night. I would think like other plants, a good amount of plants at night close up, or they like retreat a little bit, and then once the sun comes out again, they bloom. So I think the clovers sleep at night when it gets dark. These things will come up and kind of cover them. So like if they were asleep, let's say the moon's out. And I like to do concept art, so if anybody kind of looks at it, they could kind of tell what's going on. So what they could do is find a little tuft of grass. So here's an interesting thing. Remember how I had said on the actual like lore sheet that I give out with the pen, there is a little bit of a story, but it's not really a story. It's more of a background info sheet on like what their likes and dislikes are and stuff. So it's basically what I've told you to do with your hero. So they don't like bees, okay, because bees will pollinate them, which if you think about that, it's kind of gross. So of course they're afraid of bees. But there's a way to keep them. If you find one, there's a way to keep them where you put them in like cotton fluff or something. So because I know that in my head, that's almost too much for me to know, because that is affecting what I'm doing right now. So I could change that at this point, but instead I'm gonna make it just like a little soft tuft of grass, because like I said, I don't like humans and I don't want to include humans, but since there's two versions of them technically now. They're in our world and they're not in our world. The story will not be in our world, but they are gonna be technically in our world. So if you think about it, and I still don't even know right now if I want to do them for my Journey June, but if I do, I know I could. But the other reason I was thinking of doing one of these for Journey June is I get to make another story about them, and I've already got merch made. So some of you know I like to sell my things with other things, so a lot of my books come with other stuff. So this is just a perk to me to already have. If I make another book, another story, I can just sell these along with it for a discounted price. So it's a smart product choice, as well as being something I'm still passionate about right now and kind of capitalizing on my own passion. Does that make sense? It's not manipulation, because I still feel very true about this, and doing it now would be better than doing it any other time. So that's all about learning as an artist, going with your ups and downs, your waves. If you're totally like gelling on some sort of inspiration and you think, well, I got to do this other thing, honestly, you should switch over and do that thing you're passionate about right now, because you might lose that and never get it back. So you might as well capitalize on that while you're feeling it, because artists are all about feeling, right? We just strive on that. That's what we're about. We're trying to make things that feel. We're trying to get feelings out of people. We're trying to learn how to feel ourselves. So not in a physical way. Maybe, I don't know. But in terms of just figuring out what you're about, you figure out where you like how you're feeling, and then you kind of own that. And who was it earlier? D-Pad was in here, and he's like, yeah, I might be having some relationship troubles, so my story might get a little dark. That's fine. Honestly, art is therapeutic. So if you need to make a dark story right now because that's how you're feeling, do it. Just run with it. There's no reason to fight it. As an artist, you're supposed to just go with how you're feeling. So do it, because then you'll have a nice array of different projects that have different feelings for different moods that everyone feels. So maybe that becomes his heartbreak story, that somebody experiencing heartbreak might actually be gravitating towards that, and it might make them feel better, right? Because really, it's all about empathy. I don't know. I'm just saying. Oh, Jazzy, thank you. I don't know about that, but that is a nice compliment. I just thought of something practical that I could easily replicate. It does take me about maybe 10 minutes 10 to 15 minutes to make one of these each, but it's simple. It's true to the style of my other products, where when I have them all lined up with each other, you know, it's cohesive, so I like that. But there you go, Mayfox. I hope you're making some money though for that. So I wouldn't give it away for free. Hopefully you're like, and 2 more bucks and you can get the story behind it, because otherwise you might be losing money. So you gotta make sure you're not losing money. Toucan, thank you for the follow. Welcome. Let's see. Mayfax, was the pin lock easy enough to figure out? It's Friday. It's true, last. It is. Thank you. Happy Friday to you. Long weekend for some people. Thank you, Jazzy. I really tried to, you know, especially for the Mythical Guardians. I really try to put a lot into those, because that's the one time I get to fully make something that's me, that I'm actually getting paid for. This is my first instance of this, and I adore it. I adore the process. I am so grateful that people trust me every month to make something for them that lives up to their standards. So the fact that I was able to create something bigger than what I had originally set out to do, and eventually I'd like to make a book of all of them. Like, that's, you know, end game. But for right now, I'm even just happy that this pip became an enamel pin. Like, I can't even, you know, a couple months ago that didn't exist. Like, this is crazy to me. I don't know. A Jericho flower. Interesting. Well, it's a clover flower. I don't know where you live, Yobi, but maybe you've got Jericho flowers where we have clover flowers. But clover flowers come in a lot of colors. Usually they're pink, but I wanted to make mine different because I have another pin that, I don't have it around, but it's green and pink. So I didn't want, you know, another pink thing. So it's actually these guys. Some of you are probably like, oh, it reminds you of, and I'm like, oh, damn it. Hey, Buggles! How you doing? Okay. So we were saying, how do they sleep, right? So let's say they settle down so their bottoms are hidden, right? And they bring up their leaves, and then they're just like, you know. And like I said, I don't know yet if this is gonna be my Journey June hero or not. But either way, I'm okay. If I gotta make a new one or I get attached to a new one, I still have a week where I can play like that. And that's kind of the purpose of starting things a little bit early. So. Totally, Jazzy. Totally. And the Guardians in general, if I found another artist doing something similar to that, where like every month they were making something, I don't know, very specific that came with a story, like if they were doing something similar to me, I would be on that. Like, I'm making it because it's something I would want. Which kind of sucks because I don't know anybody who's doing it. My friend Bodhi, he actually does something similar, but also above and beyond, because he's making like D&D campaigns every month that come with their own items and sometimes maps. Like, he goes crazy, and I would love to be on that, but I don't play D&D, so I wish I did. I just don't have the time for it. But for any D&D nerd, those have to be so cool. So cool. I saw that, Jazzy. Who's your writer? Is he like a legit author, or is he just somebody that contacted you, or how did that happen? Because that's pretty cool. This is your second one. That's crazy. Alright, so I think they would just curl up like that, basically. Pull up their leaves. Which this would be such a damn cute little... Oh my god. Like, thinking of the animation of this, because I'm an animator. I went to school for animation. I got a degree in animation. I've always loved animation. I don't know if you could tell by, you know, do I like animation? Yeah, I like animation. Anyway, so I think a lot in an animator's mind. So, like this, I thought about them finding a spot, kind of wiggling their butt into it, and then plop, and then as they plop, their leaves come up. So I might have to just animate that. I think that's too cute. He is so passionate. Actually, I would love to pimp him really quick if that's okay. His main site is slowquest.com, but I think there is a link to his Patreon. Because he has such an amazing style that I haven't seen anybody else do either, so seriously, he deserves more love. It's weird when you have friends or you know people that really deserve to be either famous or at least more popular than they are, and they're not, and it breaks my heart sometimes because some people work so hard to get ahead and they're not as lucky as somebody who, say, goes viral and gets like 100,000 followers when a year or two ago they didn't have nearly that much. You know, so being viral, like, put them ahead of all the people that are still grinding. And it sucks because it's like living the lottery or winning the lottery. Like, you know, and there are people that just grind and grind and grind. And that's why you have to love what you're doing. Because if you're not, or if you fall out of love with it, you're going to still need to grind. And it's gonna take a toll on you. It really does. That's really cool, Jazzy. Good on you for helping him out. Like, I mean, you're helping each other out, but the fact that his illustrator bailed, that's never good. But that's really cool. I'm glad you got a deal like that. That's pretty nice. Okay, so we've got sleeping, sneezing, eating, flashing. Let's say mooning. We'll say mooning on this one. Mooning. I also like labeling things sometimes. Eating. Sneezing. What are your... I'm curious, if you guys don't mind telling me, what are your thoughts on this character? Would you want to see a full story about them? Or are you kind of like, I could guess. I don't need it. Be honest with me. You won't hurt my feelings. I'm just curious. I want to feel it out a bit. Motorcycles. Yeah, machines are next level. Sniggle, maybe you should do like an animate motorcycle for your journey too. I'm kidding. Don't do it. Don't do it. Yeah, Bodhi's art style is unlike any other I've ever seen, A. And B, he's so smart in... You want to talk original packaging? Dude is an inspiration. Like, he actually has, get this, D&D cards that he packages up like magic cards. He actually goes and gets, I saw him doing it the other day. He crimples the top so it's got that, you know, terrible thing at the top where you can tear it. Terrible. T-E-A-R, terrible. And you can tear it at the top, and he puts down his own adhesive, double-sided adhesive, so it actually stays shut. Like, it's a legit package. Dude is next level and needs to be known for it. He is great and he deserves to be really, like, pushed ahead. I honestly feel the same way about Gabe. I think Gabe's been grinding for like 20 years and he deserves to hit big at some point. He deserves it so bad. And I'm not just saying that because I'm his girlfriend. If he was a slacker, I would say it. I would totally say it. But he, in our friend group, he's known as one of the hardest workers out of all of us. And he... You know, he deserves more. Anyway. Sorry. Oh, Kristen, you want a whole one? Alright. I love that. Yeah, Sniggle, you're not. But that's fair. You know, I actually really appreciate you saying that. And that's true. And I could... Knowing that I know you, Yeah, it's not for you, but I like that you said what you like about it and what you don't think works for you. And that's perfect because that is you. And I love that. Oh, hey, Greg, how are ya? Okay, so it's good. Thank you guys. Thank you for letting me know. So I'll kind of play with it, see how I feel. Because remember, like, feeling out how you feel about something is really important, especially if you know you're going to be stuck with it for a month. Think about that. It's like having a roommate for a month. You want to make sure that you're compatible with them in some respect, right? You don't have to be best friends, but you want to make sure you at least like and trust this person enough. So similar to whatever creation you're making for Journey June, you want to make sure that you kind of trust it, you know a little about it, you know, that sort of thing. I agree, Jazzy. And I think it'd be fun, actually, if I started... See, what's cool about this pip thing is, for those that don't know, my pips are actually, like, flower folk. I don't want to say they're fairies. They're not fae, they're not fairies, they're flower folk. They're basically creatures that are based on actual flowers. So, like these guys here, they're based off the lily of the valley or the maybell. They're the same thing, apparently. I learned this. So, for those that don't know what the lily of the valley is, it's that one flower that has all these little bells on it that kind of alternate, and it kind of goes up like this, right? And it also has these leaves that are kind of a little bit rumply, and they go up like this around it. Okay, so this is the lily of the valley. A lot of you are probably like, oh, at this point, right? So I basically took a couple of them and made them like Gemini twins almost, like a yin and a yang, and they take care of gardens and stuff. If anybody's interested in, you know, what they actually are, or interested in pips in general, I do them every month on my Patreon. But anyway, I'll show you a final version that I used here for the buttons. Just because I never get to either. So the Maybell pip ended up looking like... Where did I put you? And every month I don't do a pip every time. Like, it depends. Let's see. Okay. Wow, that ended up being huge. Okay, so this is all the story, which I didn't mean to bring that one up. Apparently you can import PSDs. I got that. No, let me bring it up here. What days, Buggles? The days for Journey June, you mean? Here we go. Print sheet. I'll bring that up. Hey, Ebony, welcome back. I'll bring up the pips real quick on this other screen. So, yeah, here we go. Alright, so these were the Maybell ones. This ended up being a bottle. So a lot of the mythical monthly guardians I put in little bottles. So this ended up being the Maybell one. So there's one that's angsty and there's one that's happy. But together they actually take care of your garden and they figure out what your garden needs, how to protect it, all that kind of stuff. So that's what those ended up looking like. So I'm thinking that if I do this pip for the story, I can actually design a bunch of other pips, and in turn, those pips can actually become guardians in other months for my Patreon people. So we can, like, explore those more. Naturally occurring non-magical race of plant people. Well, they're magical, but I wouldn't call them fae. Like, I feel like fae can turn into humanoid things, or they're like fairies. these are more flower than they are fairy. Let's say that. So, so whenever I do these on my Patreon, the beginning tells about pips. And pips technically occur really rarely, as like they're birthed into existence every so often. Like it's like winning the lottery or something when they actually appear, right? They're not they're not occurring all the time. It's like for every million of this one plant, one of these exists, right? So. Oh, yeah, okay, so FairyCon. I went to FairyCon last year. Now, are you talking about wanting to attend it, or are you talking about wanting to vend at it? Like, have a table? Oh, thank you, Minin. I appreciate that. To attend it, go for it. Definitely. It's really cute. If you like a lot of handmade things like sculpts or clothing or art of any kind, it's wonderful. I love it because there's like zero fan art. It's all original handmade things from people's minds that just love nature. And if that's what you're about, go. Oh my god. Especially if you're kind of local to it, go. The main one is in Baltimore? I forgot where it was. I think it was Maryland. Maryland of some kind. I forgot what town it was. But that one was in a hotel. They're changing it this year. There's another FairyCon somewhere else. I can't speak for that one. But the Baltimore one, yeah. Oh yeah, Wobbles, you were there. Yeah. Yeah, it was cute. It was cute. As an attendee, I think I would have loved it. Like, a lot more. I would have really liked to walk around more and seen it. Usually they have a lot more high-profile people. Like Brian Froud is usually there. He wasn't the year I went, which I was so sad. Wendy was his wife, who does a lot of the puppets, and his son Toby, who was the baby in Labyrinth, and who now does what his parents do, basically, and does, puppets and things. They were there, but Brian wasn't. So I was kind of sad about that. But I think they said Brian would be back this year. They're bringing a headliner band that usually draws a lot more people in, so it'd probably be bumping this year. Oh, Buggles, are you talking about Journey June? Oh no. Yeah, we were talking about FairyCon. Let's see. Does anybody have another cute, simple situation? Okay, yeah. So why was Journey June confusing? I think the worst mistake people make is they think it's an illustration challenge. It's more of a storytelling, planning, consistency challenge than anything else. We don't even care how you draw it. It can be to this level, and that is preferable. This kind of level is what we would want people to actually draw it like. Because the whole idea is that you're telling the story. It's not about how the art looks. Not yet. You have to finish the story, then you go back and you do the art really nice. But I'm not exposed to some of the storytelling ideas. Not exposed to some of the storytelling ideas. What do you mean? Yeah, definitely go because Fawn's going. Like, if Fawn was there last year, I probably would have been a lot more happy. But yeah, when I went last year, no one was really there, like, of note. But when they told me they got Fawn for this year and they're changing their venue to a better place, it seems like a whole better thing. But Buggles, oh my god, Buggles, you didn't even know there was like a... Hold on. Oh my goodness. This makes me feel like I failed because there's a whole like list of the prompts. Like if you go to... I thought I shared this enough, but apparently I didn't. If you're confused, I failed. Because I shared this a bunch, and it actually goes, and if you go down to Babbling Bard, it explains what it is. And on every day... Actually, if you're following any of the social media, it should have explained. Like if you go to Journey June's account. Okay, it's Journey through June because somebody has Journey June. Anyway, and if you go down here, every single day I put up what it is, what it means, what questions to answer. So in particular, I'm guessing you weren't following one of the social medias then? Oh yeah, it's there a bunch of times. But yeah, so I mean, if you go to it, it should explain what to actually do for that day. Babbling Bard. So the group finds something or someone that gives them directions. Is it a person, a map, a holographic guide, a stone, a cereal box? Focus on the form that the map takes for the specific journey. So every day, and I'm probably just going to honestly repost these unless I figure out that they're not saying what I want them to say. But for the most part, it tells like what it is, questions to answer, and I usually write these out like how, like depending on your genre. Like the Bard was a good example because is it a person, a map, so it could be a pirate story, holographic guide, sci-fi, a stone, fantasy, cereal box, modern. So I try to, depending on whatever somebody's genre is, I'm trying to call to that so you can kind of get some ideas going. And then what to focus on. Each one says focus on, focus on, focus on. So each one it's like, well, what exactly am I answering here? So that should help a bit. But yeah, make sure you're following at least one of the socials. The best one is probably the Instagram. So put up a, like, you know, post notification for that one. My own little hero's journey. Yeah, and if at any point any of you guys get lost, please contact me as soon as you get lost. I am more than happy to explain anything and everything that you're having trouble with. I would rather have you finish it in some form than to just quit. So Buggles, if you end up confused again this year, please just contact Journey Through June, like send it a DM, and I swear to God, I'll get back to you. I'm really good about those. Because I don't want you to start it and fail it, you know? I don't want you to quit. Unless, of course, you don't think you're a storyteller. If you start telling it and you get, like, let's say halfway through and you're not enjoying telling a story and you would rather just do one image, you might be more of an illustrator than a storyteller. And that's really important to figure out about yourself. Some people are illustrators and they think they're storytellers and they never tell a story, and then once they finally do, they're like, I don't like this at all. This is way too much work. I don't want to do this. That's totally fine. Whatever you want to do, whatever suits you best, that's the most important thing to figure out. Really it is. Let's see. 16 nail clippers. Wow, Greg. That's crazy. Well, you've got some for your entire life then. How about that? Okay. So, I think we answered everything I wanted to answer for today. Does anyone have any more questions or want to talk about anything else? Like hero related? Next Friday is gonna, I think, eventually like be the actual kickoff for Journey June. I'm gonna tell you how to take the hero that you've ideally created by then, because that's the last day of May. So if you're doing this, have your hero ready. Don't world build, but do create your hero. And then Friday, a week from today, right here, we're gonna be talking about how to take your hero and how to first start putting them into the story. Because that seems to be a hurdle a lot of people aren't really sure of how to approach. Rightfully so. It can be very difficult. But once you get going, they should kind of start writing themselves. Like, a third of the way through, you should feel kind of more, all right, I know where this is going. Cool. But until you get to that point, it can be hard. And I get it. The main thing, though, is that you get something, anything, for that day. Whatever the prompt is, doesn't even matter. It could even be something really weird. Doesn't even matter, as long as you do something for that day. Nightshade, 20 months? Are you kidding me? Oh my god. Don't worry, I've got it written down that I owe you that ATC, but if you get to 24 before I get done with your first one, I guess I'd let you cash in for a 5x7 if you want. Because what I usually do is if somebody's been subscribed for 12 months, I'll do an ATC for you of whatever you want. It's basically a commission that's like this big. And then I'll send it to you if you've been subscribed for 12 months. Nightshade is almost up to 2 years. So, wow. All right, Nightshade, we're going to do Subshrub Nub Rubs. You ready? I got to get a new subshrub. I really do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Thank you, Nightshade. Thank you. Did you get your pip, by the way? Like, for the month? Like, you got it, right? When did I send those out? The Maybells. Yeah, did you get the Maybell? Also, are you giving those to your girlfriend? Is Gabe doing Journey June? He says he is. I asked him yesterday if he has a character yet, and he has an idea. But he hasn't done any, like, concept sketches yet. So, but for all of June, I think we're going to do what we did last year, where we use all of our streams as kind of, come do your Journey June with us. We'll talk about any problems you have. If you're confused about any of the prompts, we'll go through them. Anything and everything. Each one of our streams will be used for Journey June. Because it's very important. You know, you guys, we want to help you. That's the whole reason we're doing this. It's the only reason we're doing this is because we want to help you guys make stories and figure out if you want to make stories. It's important, you know, to figure out what you do like, what you don't like, and to make things. It's so important to make things in your life. I don't care what you make. If you're a baker, you make tables, I don't care. Make things. Honestly, I feel like that's why we're here, is to just make things. Anyway, though, this is deep. So yeah, next Friday, if you can't come here, please watch it. I'm thinking we're gonna have a lot of things that we can, you know, talk about. I'll pimp this on the site that we'll be having it on Friday. I think I'm also going to put up the calendar again. Gabe and I are gonna talk about if we need to change any of the days. Pretty sure we won't though. Honestly, a lot of them feel pretty solid. I feel like we did a pretty good job last year with them. So, I don't know. I think we'll just repost them for the most part, and, you know, if anybody has any questions, you know, ask us as we go. Oh, you're giving them to your niece. Oh my god. Cute. That's perfect, Nightshade. I would think these would be good for kids. Actually, Kristen's giving them to her daughters, too. So if anybody has any kids, honestly, my Mythical Monthly Guardians are probably really good for kids. I can be the new Zoo Books, you guys. Zoo Books. Yeah. Anyway, I'm dating myself now. Zoo Books. Okay. I'm gonna go, because I got a lot of commissions to do, like Moltar's. If Moltar's still here, I'm gonna start up yours soon. What else? Yeah, I think that's it. Maybe we should find someone to raid. But here's all the Journey June info real quick. That's all the Journey June stuff. Keep in mind that yes, we have a Twitter, yes, we have a Facebook, yes, we have a Tumblr, which is the main domain name one. But Instagram is like, if we had to choose, that's the one. That's the one we like. Let's see. Oh, they're playing a game. No one's doing art right now. Everybody's playing games. Yeah, Wubbles, I'm looking forward to it too. I thought your character design last year was a solid one. If you wanted to even reuse that this year, that's a solid design. You could use him. Just don't do every day in gouache. Just do thumbnails, and you know, then you can go back after the month's ended and do them all in gouache. Do one every like stream, you know, whatever you want to do. But we just gotta get, you know, that done. Oh, you guys, Yobi's streaming. Let's go raid Yobi. Wobbles, I'm still happy you even attempted it, though. Really, we are. We're gonna raid Yobi. Thank you guys for coming. Yobi is a regular to the stream here, so I want to show him a little love. So let's go see him. I have no idea what they're doing, but thank you guys so much for coming again. Every time you come here, I feel so loved. So thank you so much. Here are my socials, too, if anybody wants to follow me. Go look at my Patreon, the $6 tier. That's my favorite one, and I swear to God, you'll love it. Anyway, let's go. Love you, bye.